Up this week on my show, Captain Twig with his God-given talent, and then the Sylvanas visionary, Ataraxia. Thanks for coming on the show, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Hello, thank
Savannah
you.
is visionary. I like that. No one's ever talked about it that way, so that's good.
All right, so basically, um, I'll give everybody that's watching another quick rundown of the show if you're new. So we're basically just gonna talk about all the previous seasons, how we got into the game, um, and just like stories from events and stuff like that. And yeah, so starting off, how did you guys both get into Smite? You could start off, Nate, or Ataraxia. That's Ataraxia's name for people that don't know.
I started. It was at the very beginning, or very close to. I think my account creation is June 2012. My brother had come home from uni over the summer, and we both played a ton of League of Legends. We played we thought we didn't. MOBA wasn't really invented. I guess it was invented because of Dota, but there was a game called Demigod, which is like a MOBA thing, which we played a ton of, and that was really good. And then he had bought into the Smite beta um, back then, and with it you got a free key, and he's like, "Give this a go. It looks really cool." So we got that, and then we played it all summer. And I pretty much played it just to try beat him at it and be better at him. And that was pretty much my intro. I played it non-stop since then, and yeah, that's how I got in really. Just
Dude,
beat my brother at it, be better with him.
that's awesome. I actually bought into it too. I remember I saw the characters and I'm like, yeah, I want to. This game looks sick because I played a lot of League, and
Hmm.
I bought into the beta. And the first character I bought was Ao Kwang just because he was a dragon, and I ended up
Oh,
hating him with the gems.
you hated him.
Yeah, so it's just funny, and I still don't really like Kukulkan that much as it is now. So how'd you get into the game, Twig?
So I watched a lot of YouTube back then. I think I was about 18, maybe 17, and I watched a guy called Steve Schwint. Like he played like Call of Duty back then, and um, I watched him for that, and like he just did a let's try or let's play Smite. Like he did a huge series on it, like 40, 50 episodes. And I remember like I'd never watched them, like never watched the Smite videos, but like I decided to watch one, and then like for some reason I got like really into it and decided I watched the next like 30 episodes during like 2 days, like just because I was so like into it for some weird reason. Like I never really come across MOBAs. I wasn't into League, I wasn't into Dota or anything. And like I tried it from then, and then I watched like streams, and I watched like a lot of Lasses and like Matty Pocket at the time, a couple others like Allied and Shing, and that like I just fell in love with the game completely. Like I bought and like built a PC just to play Smite and StarCraft at the time, and like then I just got into it.
Nice. Did you guys play WoW before Smite at all, or no?
Yeah, I played a ton of WoW.
Yeah. Did you play or
Yeah,
no?
WoW is my
I didn't, as I
big.
said, I didn't have a gaming PC, so
Oh wow. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
like
WoW is the big learning game for me. Well, it's the first one, I guess. Like, do you know when you play games and stuff growing up? And I was always competitive with my brother, and we'd be pretty good as a result, just because we wanted to beat each other. Um, but you know that the mindset, I don't, you must have it for Smite, is that the learning and constructive learning, I guess. I think WoW raiding was my first into that, like the first real competitive edge against the wider world rather than just the people who are in your room. So I
Yeah.
used to compete on the DPS world rankings and shit for bosses.
Nice. Yeah.
Not
I
very well, but I didn't care.
Same here. Like it's funny because me and my brother were also super competitive, and that was like I only played WoW. Like I started like maybe 2005, but that was the only game I played like all the way up until I think I played a little bit of no, it was the first game I played all the way up until League, and I basically played WoW and League, and that's it on my um gaming PC. Other than that, I just stuck to like console games and stuff. But yeah, that was like my first introduction to. I totally get what you mean about that.
Hmm. Which expansion? Did you start from vanilla or
Yeah, I
did you
started
come
from
in for an
vanilla,
expansion?
and then I've played every expansion since. Like I've played a little bit of Battle or for Azeroth. I didn't really like it that much,
Same.
but yeah. That's cool. So, did you guys end up playing a lot of ranked in like the preseason? Like anywhere like before season 1 started, or no? Obviously, you guys had to a little bit at some point, I feel like.
I Well, for me, like I became a huge like casual at the time. Like I just played mid anything. Like that's just the role I went to every time I could. And I don't think I played a lot of ranked at all. I was lucky I did because I think that's how I got picked up eventually by Epindary. But like, um, I never really enjoyed ranked. I felt like I don't know. It was just so much more free, and people were a bit less toxic in casuals. But I don't know. I never played a lot of ranked, but I was a proper noob like back then in ranked. Like I just played. I was usually like lowest elo. I'd play like support most games just because I couldn't play anything else. And like I got pretty good at Bacchus and Ymir. I remember just because like that's all I played in ranked. And like if I ever got into any decent games, that's all I could play. So
It's fun. I feel like a lot of like the European players that I played ranked with, like it's so funny. Like Emilito is somebody who sticks out as like somebody who always plays Ymir. Like I feel like all you guys can play Ymir. It's just really funny. I don't know why. It's like one of the first gods that just pop into my mind. Like, and that's why everybody sticks Ymir with like EU. It's just funny that you say that too.
yeah,
I
it's
don't even
funny.
have it mastered. Never mastered him here. One of my
Really?
greatest sins. Yeah. I've mastered like most characters except for
No
Guardians. That's my
way.
tab. Guardians and Aphrodite.
Wait, speaking of
Um,
mastery, how many diamonds do you have, Twig? I think you're the second most. I think I have more than you. Do you know off the top of your
I
head?
have no. I don't keep track. I stopped playing a lot of casuals very recently, but like
I know you have a lot.
55, 60, something like that. Oh, I don't know. Hold on. Yeah, something like. Oh no, you mean masteries, like straight up one.
No, no,
Oh,
no, like 10, like diamonds, yeah.
oh, diamonds. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's something like 55.
yeah, I think I have like over 60 or something. I have a crazy amount. But yeah.
That's pretty high.
um yeah, what about you, Nate? How did you get into like the rank scene and stuff?
I didn't really play rank to be honest. I just played casuals. I would like Twig. I played mid. I'd play anything in mid, but mostly I played Neath and Honor and Bakasura. Um, and Fenrir. There was a patch when Fenrir came out, and he had the red buff next to mid. Don't you remember that? But
Yeah.
there was a super cheesy build you could do because Brutalize was in-hand damage back then that could also crit. So what
Oh
you
my
do is
god,
you'd start
yeah.
Hog, no items, and Girdle. So you'd buy both reactors
Yeah,
from
the girdle
base.
build.
You'd solo the red buff, and then you'd walk into mid lane, and then someone's there slapping the minion wave trying to kill them, and you press Girdle, you 3'd them, don't even need to auto afterwards, and they died. Guaranteed first blood every
Oh
single time.
man.
It was so stupid.
Yeah, I
But
remember
yeah, I
that.
just did that. I was allergic to rank, never touched it ever
Yeah,
until I got picked up. Really,
yeah,
I got
'cause
picked up and then played ranked.
the one person that I remember from seeing in ranked, because I played ranked like right when it first came out, and the only person that I remember from that Titan team that I saw a lot was Murder.
Hmm.
Um, Other than that, like played with like Young Bay, I don't know, Epindary I think played ranked as well. Just like who else?
Do you
Maybe
remember
Pink Lobster.
Exotic? Did you
Exot.
play with him?
Oh, here we
Um,
go.
I probably did play with him. I just don't remember. But
Hmm.
so what was your guys' first like real team then that you were on?
Uh,
Hmm.
Sorry.
You wanna go, Took? You go first. No, you go first, man.
Okay. All right. The first team I was like I didn't play much ranked as I said, but like I just remember playing a couple games. Like I got decently, not like anywhere near the top of like ranked ever, like back then, but like um I just remember having a decent bunch of games since I would always take mid if I could. And I was pretty okay at like Agni, and I think Poseidon was like the new mid god to play back then. That feels crazy to say.
That is
But like
crazy.
I was pretty good at him too, and like I remember Epindary was jungling in a couple games that we were in the same match, and back then it wasn't EU and NA server; it was just like you queued and hoped, you know, and luckily there were a couple of EU games, so like I could look because I struggled a lot with ping back then. I don't know why, but like if I was on an NA server, I'd just feed like every game. Anyway, uh I looked pretty good. So Epindary like invited me to play like casuals for like I think we played like Joust 3v3 at the time with Exotic. Like him and Exotic just like judged me, I think, for like 2 games, and they're like, "Do you want to scrim?" So and then I scrimmed with them, and like everything went well, and so like they picked me up for their team, and we like won a couple weeklies. I think that there was a LAN on at the time. It was forget, was it Gamescom? And like the top 4 EU teams were like away then, and like that we won that weekly that week,
Nice.
and like for some reason High Res still did a weekly while Gamescom was on, which was like the weirdest thing ever. But lucky me, since like I got a lot of kind of like credit, or lots of people knew me from that, I guess. And like we did well and won a couple other weeklies later on, and that's kind of how I got into the scene, I guess.
That's awesome. What about you, Nate? How'd you get into it?
It was through Proxy QQ. Rest in peace, I guess. He was I don't know, I can't really remember how we ever met in the first place. My memory is terrible, but it was during those weekly bits and the amateur stuff. I think the Pro League had come on at one point or other, but the team would change every week, but it would usually be me and Proxy, and then we would have people, sometimes Frezzy, I think oh, who else was there? Other big names, but like people would come in and out. There was Top QQ, and it was just, it must have been the longest period, like 6 months plus, maybe even a bit longer, of just doing those teams with them. And like he'd say, "Oh, he's got another opportunity," or "I've got another opportunity," and then 2 weeks later we'd be back on a team together. And that's the only reason I actually play Hunter, because I did play mid mostly, and that's how I guess he knew me from. But then since I mostly just played Neath and Honor, I started playing ADCs for the teams that I was on with him, because he would prefer to mid, or he would support me and we'd lane together. And there was this brief bit where I was going to do jungle when they first tried to put jungle into the meta. I remember for a weekly tournament, I was like, "Oh yeah, just give it a go, I'll do it." And I played Neja, and no one had a clue what they were doing. I just played Neja with Fatalis and maxed the 2 and ran at people, and it went pretty well. But then he was like, "No, I want a jungle. It sounds pretty cool." So I was like, "Okay," and that was it. Hunter since then, but never a role by choice.
Do you like playing Hunter
Awesome.
or no?
I like the characters. I despise the lane. Always have. I hate dueling.
I
It's the
feel like
least fun place to
we
be.
can talk about that later, but man, this past season was rough for dueling. I feel like.
Yeah, it was awful. Especially in ranked, it's the
Oh, yeah.
even the people not in dual lane hate dual lane this season, and the people in dual lane hate even more. It's so awful.
Yeah, the jungler is like, dual lane loses. Oh, I guess I'm gonna feed the rest of the game because my buffs are gone. Oh man.
It's so true. I feel like something like I enjoyed season 5 for what it was, but like something like I feel like the solo lane's just sitting there useless. Like the dual lane is like you like start the game and you pray, like if they do good, like it's a free win, like. But if they don't do well, like I don't know, man, just may as well not play. And then like your mid jungle matters sometimes, usually to shut down the duo if you can. Like that's why you matter. But I don't know, man. Something went wrong with like the map in season 5. I enjoyed it for what it was though.
I enjoyed it too. I think we'll get into it later, but we'll stick back in season 0. We'll get to season 5 eventually, but yeah. No, I definitely agree with a lot of things that you said. So, when did you get on to like, oh, well, you said you had a story about Zap. We'll do that first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, before we get into
It's,
like your first big teams, I guess.
This was in season 0, like the preseason bits, and it was Zapman back then had a bit more swagger than he does now, a bit less humble, you'd say. And I can't remember whether I queued NA or whether he queued EU, but I do remember, because I wasn't known really back then, I did snipe him. And do you know, when everyone, Elo was hidden, there was no leaderboard, I think it was maybe even before ranked, that kind of period, and you're ranked on your order in the lobby. And I remember why I sniped him now, I had never played a game in the longest time, like 3, 4, 5 months, where I wasn't top. So I was sure that I was probably top in EU because I played against most people, most pros and stuff, and in casuals I was number 1. So I wanted to test that against NA people to try to figure out where I ranked, because there was no way to figure it out back then. So I sniped that man on his stream, and he played mid. I don't know why. I can't remember what he played, and I played Neath mid. That's all I remember is I played Neath mid. And I remember watching the game back afterwards, and we won the game, and I did pretty well in it. But I remember I was like, oh, this Zapman guy is not so good during the game because I was like 2 levels ahead of him without doing anything, and that was all I was doing as I was farming. And I went back to watch the stream, and then there was this bit. He was like, why is this knee 2 levels ahead of me? I was like, oh, I bet he's try harding and going for back camps or something like that to go farm them. And the way he said it was filled with such animosity. And it because he had no idea who I was. I don't think I've ever told him that story either. But it was just so funny. Just something as simple as tryharding because I killed some back camps for extra XP. It was so funny.
Oh man.
He was really pissed about it. But that's it really. Not much of a story, but
Yeah, that's funny. Do you have any stories about any of the streamers or any of the players from either NA or U, Twig, or no? That you can think of off the top of your
I
head?
remember like Shadow Nightmare. Do you remember him?
Yeah, no, I was
Like,
I was on a team with him for like a month, like at the beginning of season 2.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
you were. Well, it was season 0, so it wasn't even really before he was like a pro Smite player.
Mhm.
He was pretty young, right? Like he must have been like 16 or 17, like back in season 0. But like maybe even just 15 or 16, I don't know. But he was the most toxic, like the most toxic player to me. Like he had a vendetta, or I don't know what. Like I'd just play, like I'd usually play support, as I said, like in those like any ranked games I did play. Like he was one of the biggest reasons I didn't play like ranked. You know, like he was just so horrible to me. Like the whole time he'd play like carries and like usually win against me. And like if I would win, like he'd like say, "Oh, sorry about your Guan" or something like that. And I sat there. And it was like, why are you doing this to me? He was just so I don't really have any stories though. It was him, and then like I remember Zapman. I remember I was playing Agni once, and he's like raging at me for like bombing the wave to clear it. We've got Fire Giant on all of us. We're like pushing in, and like I bombed the wave twice. I don't know why, to kill it in front of him. And he's like, why are you wasting all your bombs like, before we fight? Which is a good point, to be fair. Like, but that was it. That's all the memories I have. Like, Shadow was really toxic, but I don't really remember any other pros like having a big like. I remember Allied was always really nice, but that was pretty much it.
That's funny. So, all right, so we'll get into season 1. So, I remember. So I'll start off by saying I remember I watched Prime stream a lot, and I thought he was really good. I remember he used to stream to like 4, 5, 6 viewers all the time, and I always watched his stream. He played a lot of Vulcan and just like a lot of mid, and I always thought he was really good. And I was like surprised nobody picked him up actually. And who like how'd you get Titan started, or what was your guys' first name? You were Aquila, and what were you before that?
Agilitas.
Agilitas, yeah. So how did that team
so
come together?
that was me and my friend Zindan. So Zindan was one of the people that I was in and out of teams with for a lot with Proxy. I think it was his idea to begin with, but we were going to put together a team to do Challenger Cup or whatever it was back then, or just the weeklies, I suppose. And we started thinking about who to put together. So he'd been talking a lot with Murder, and because he had just come off one of the big teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was a bit unsure. And Murder in particular was very against playing with me. I remember that from when we were putting the team together. But Zen convinced him to give me a go with it. And then Zen had noticed Prime streaming as well a ton. And at the time, we'd watch him and like, oh, this guy's really good. Why isn't he not being seen before? He plays so much. Blah blah blah. And I remember at the time we approached him to join the team. We had a talk with him and stuff, and he seemed pretty receptive to it. But he'd also gotten an offer from SunTouch on a C9 roster back then. I can't remember who else was on that team, but he did get an offer for that. And I don't know why, because they were in the. I know why they chose him because he's really good, but I don't know why he ended up choosing us because I think they were up there. I think they were in the pro league, but a low pro league.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really entirely sure, but he probably shouldn't have picked us, but he did. So we had him go mid. We picked up Ependary for jungle, and was it Ependary?
No, it was
At that point?
Replicas. Well, actually, I don't know.
Repi came later.
Repi was later?
Came later.
Okay.
No, it was, yeah.
Yeah,
So
Ependary?
I was solo in that roster.
Really?
Alright, so let's go back to the start. I was
Okay.
solo because I used to play Noir solo, old Noir. We had that little flame burst that stunned him, and then she nailed
The
you with auto attack.
backdoor.
Yeah, but I didn't play her as a backdoor cheese. I was so mad when they removed her because she was my favorite character. She always was, And then I played her legitimately with you'd rush Telkeens, like Telkeens 2, and then you'd rush it and then come back to lane, pretty much Sylvanas, but not as good. Oh, way better. But anyway, so I do that properly, and I didn't cheese it, and they removed it as rubbish. But I played that solo, and then I think Zindern was ADC because he wanted to swap, which is why I went to solo. We had Epandari jungle and Prime mid and Murder duo. And I think what it came down to was that during one of the weeklies, Epandari ended up oversleeping and not turning up. And we were all pretty pissed about it because the team was doing really well. And we ended up kicking him at that point. At which point, Zindern went back to jungle and I went back to ADC. And then we picked up. It was originally a guy. What was his name? It wasn't Comfrey. It was someone else, and we played with him, and it was okay. He was it was alright. It was really nice in the like the tryout stages.
Yeah.
He was the nicest guy, super chill. We thought, oh man, this guy is great. We found this new talent like Prime, and it's going to be great. We're going to do good things. Week later, super toxic, awful. Like honestly, I've never seen a person flip so much. His name was like Crisscross or something like that. He was
I love
so
that you don't
toxic.
remember his name. That's the best part about it.
But he was on the team for like a week, but he was so nice, and we were like, oh. And in the bit between, we played a weekly without him because he couldn't make it, and that's when we had Comfrey, and he came in, and we ended up winning the weekly, which was the first one we'd won ever. We're like, wow, maybe this is the roster we should go with. So we're having talks about it, and then we start talking to him again, and he's flipped the switch. He's like a completely different person. So we kicked him, and then we took Comfrey on, and then that was the stable roster until this is a long story. So they had qualifiers to get into the SPL at that point, and we'd made it to that point, and we ended up not making it by one match, with that roster, literally one match.
Wow.
And I think it was like a Shadow Nightmares team or something like that. So we didn't make it through. It was like a group thing. And at that point, Zindern said he wanted to take a break, and he recommended Replicast that we scrim with him just for a couple of weeks because he didn't want to put as much effort into Smite anymore. He was getting a bit burned out. And then eventually we felt better with Reppy, and more important than that, it was that we all wanted to still try a lot. None of us were ready to give up, especially because the run to Worlds was still an option. So we ended up replacing him, taking Reppy, and then the rest is history.
That's sick. So how'd your first like big team come together? Like how'd you get into SPL and stuff, Twig?
Right, so I guess season 0, I'm gonna try to get how I got on a team with SK, which was Reels, Badger, dual lane. I think it was Maniac, solo, and Zero's mid. Oh no, Zero's jungle and I mid. So
that's cool. Yeah, that's crazy.
How did I get there? All right, so I was on a team with Epin, Exotic, ADC. I can't remember if it was Badger. Like we had a series with Poeng, who was Badger, who was like I don't know. I remember because he was Boeing for a while in ranked, and like we invited him to TeamSpeak, and Epin and Exotic knew exactly who he was straight away, like Badger. But then like none of us needed to tell anyone that it was Badger, so like we just decided to all keep it a secret, basically. But I'm trying to remember who was it. Oh, it was like Proxy QQ jungle as well. But like he was pretty fun to mid for because like I don't know if he was aggressive, but he kind of had a decent game plan all the time.
He was a good shot caller, right? He'd always know what he wanted to do, and then he'd tell you what to do it. Like he was really good at that, but he wouldn't always say it in the best ways.
Yeah. Like he wasn't like the nicest person ever, that's for sure. But he had a soft spot for me for some reason, but like which I'll take because I think it helped. But like he was what's the word? Like he was perfect for like how Smite was back then, which was like no one was that good, but like to give direction and have a general game plan back then in like the first year of like pro league was perfect pretty much. So like anyway, we played that was the lineup. He was jungle, and that was our season 0 roster. I remember. Oh no, Epin. I think we kicked him season 0 since I don't remember. It was something like him oversleeping or us just feeling like he didn't care. Like, and he generally just gave that impression off. And it was just before season 1, and Exotics like something to do with his graphics card, but like, and he like the fact that he literally couldn't play the next day for a tournament, um, and like I think it came down to him being too burnt out, and also like he really didn't want to go to LAN, and the prospect of the launch tournament was coming close. I remember, and for him, like he just didn't want to go to LAN events. Like that's not the life he wanted. He really enjoyed like competitive Smite, but um, like he just that's when he kind of just said like I don't even want to play tomorrow's tournament, since it had like a lot of, I don't remember, but it was like, when was launch tournament? March or something? April? But there
Yeah, I
was
think
like
it was earlier in the year for sure because that
there was
the launch tournament is when the game got released technically, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
But that was like the start of season one after the launch tournament,
Yeah.
right? Or
Mhm.
yeah.
Hmm.
So like, and
I
I
think
remember
so.
it was like December or something that Exotic, I think, quit because it was like that was when it was getting announced. That was when all the qualifying was being done for the launch tournament, and that's when it came down to the fact that he just didn't like want to go to LAN events. He didn't want to meet people. He didn't want to like fly and all this like, and like I loved him to like, he was probably my one of my favorite like teammates of all time for sure, but like as a person, just because he was really cool to hang out with. But like it came down to that, and like we picked up Reels, who was like, he was in and out of the scene at the time. Like I think he went to China with like a bunch of people. I forget who, but like he went to China to play like a Smite tournament, like a show match at the
Oh, it
time.
was with Dig or whatever, but the
Yeah, it was super weird,
it was like
and
a
like
group of EU people. It wasn't one team, right? That went to that. I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that's what it
yeah.
was like. Cause didn't Badger go to that too? I don't
I
remember.
don't I don't think Badger went, no.
But yeah, I don't remember.
Um, but like he was in and out of the season, and we were just looking for an ADC to play like with, and he is like, Reels was definitely really good for us, since he kind of had a mission and he wanted to be a captain and all that, and since Exotic and Eppin were kind of out of the way or on the way out, like we needed like a new captain, a new person to like kind of lead us, and like I don't know, irresponsible as Reels was, I feel like he was kind of perfect for us at the time, and so he stepped in with Badger, who we'd already picked up. He was Poeng at the time, I think, and I think he was only like revealed as Badger when he went to the launch tournament like properly. Um, and then so that was Reels Badger. Um, Let me think about the solo lane. I think we'd replaced NQ a
Oh my
while
god.
ago.
I know. Yeah, I remember NQ.
Oh no, we hadn't replaced NQ. NQ left us for Suntouch's team, I think. Oh no. Hold on. No, we went to launch tournament with NQ. So Maniac must have been later. Sorry, I'm trying to remember, but like NQ was on our team back then as our solo laner. He was all right, he played the game, he took it seriously. He was, I guess, everything you'd want from a solo laner, and I think it was Proxy as well who went to launch tournament with us. And NQ and Proxy had a lot of problems, and I think that led to um, Proxy being the first to leave that team in season um, in the after the launch tournament, and then like NQ left for C9 after that, and then like so Zeros went jungle, and Maniac went solo, who were both like really good pickups. Honestly, Zeros was pretty good, but he was really passive. But like, yeah, that's kind of what led us to what we were in season one. I guess that was really long. Sorry.
No, it's cool. Yeah, it's cool to hear. Like I literally don't know the history of a lot of the European teams. Like what basically for me, like the only thing that I know is like what from watching the events. Like those are the teams that I remember. Like I just remember I don't really I guess I don't really remember the launch tournament, but I remember like the roster, the Aquila roster that did really well at Super Regionals. I remember like the SK and the Fnatic of like all the events that you guys went to. Like I didn't know like the history. Like I think it's really cool to hear about for sure. So um regional season 1. All right, so did either of you guys know me by then or no? Probably not still, right? Because I did not know of Nate really until watching the Super Regionals or the regular, it was called Regionals back then, the season 1 Regionals. I didn't know who you were until then. And then I knew who you were, Twig, just from I think I saw you a couple times in ranked, and like I just saw you on streams and stuff, and I knew you were on one of the good European teams. But did you? You guys probably didn't really know me because I was like on the worst SPL team in season 1. Like my team was Fat Chunks. Maybe you do because of
You,
the name.
yeah, I
But
remember that the
yeah.
name, and I remember like rooting for you because you did loads of troll like stuff. Like you guys are big trolls at the time, man.
Yeah.
And were you on a team with Pern at the time or what?
Okay,
Like,
so season 0,
yeah.
my very first team, it was for a PAX qualifier. I remember we lost in the finals, I think. Like it was like the wild card to go to like a PAX tournament, not to go but to play in it. You could play from home. Um, but like I think you could go there and play there as well. And I think like Pon was on a team with Zap back then, and they ended up winning that tournament or whatever. So it's just funny to think about that too. That's crazy. But um, it's really funny because I guess my first real team, I was on a team with Chaos. You guys know who Chaos is, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he was on Enemy. So I was on a team. That's the only person that you guys would probably know. And then I was on a team with Mortar. He's somebody like exotic, I feel like. Did you ever play with Mortar at all in like ranked or anything, or no?
The name rings a
Yeah.
bell, but I have
But yeah,
no
that's like
idea.
somebody that like I still actually talk to him today, and he still plays Smite like a little bit, and I play like casuals with him whenever he logs on. But I really, really enjoyed playing with him, and I actually met him. He lives in New York, and when I was in New Jersey this year, he was in New Jersey for some event, and he ended up driving down, and I got to meet him, and we hung out for like a couple hours. That was pretty cool. But yeah, he was like somebody like I guess like when you brought up exotic, he's somebody like that who I really, really enjoyed playing with, and like I just had a lot of fun with. But it was like competitive Smite was just like not his thing because he has
Mhm.
a bunch of other stuff going on. Um, but yeah, I was on a team with that, and then um, the second team I was on. Do you guys remember Harry GN at all, or no? No.
I don't remember
NA.
Doesn't
him.
mean
Okay, so I was on a team with Mortar again, and then I was on a team with Kiki, and
Oh.
so that was like my first real team, I guess, in season 0 that we scrimmed with, because we didn't really scrim with the other team that I was on. We just played in like that PAX qualifier or whatever, and we were scrimming against Exertus, who was Andinster's team with Barracuda, and I think they had Eonic or Dare at that time as support. But I played jungle. I was not a support actually at all at the very beginning. Did you guys know that or no? Probably
I have
not.
no idea.
My
Yeah.
NA knowledge
I
is
have
super
no
Yeah,
idea.
bad. I didn't
yeah.
really even
So,
watch the tournaments back
so
then.
I played jungle, but like I think I played in a couple weeklies as jungle. But I played a lot of Fenrir jungle. I played a lot of Amana jungle. I played Ares jungle back then too, cause in Odin, and those were like my characters. And Arachne, and I was known for Arachne as well, actually, the old Arachne, and Old Kali, which is my favorite character. Which I'm really sad they removed her. I loved playing that character. So I was on a
When you
team.
just ran at someone with all the power and
Mhm.
the 2 would just like obliterate people, 70% of life, just delete them.
So I was on a team
Was
with
it the 2?
yeah, no, the 2 was the Vamana 2 that just did more damage, and the 1
Yeah,
was the power thing.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I was on a team with them and or with Kiki, and then um Harry, who was the mid laner, was like a big rager all the time, and he gets super mad about like everything, and he'd always get ganked. Like I remember scrimming against DJ's team back then, and DJ would always like he would like play Ymir, and he would just like he'd get level 2, and he'd just gank mid, and kill him every single time it worked, and I would just farm, and I'd be like, yo, look, I'm getting super far ahead of him, just like back up. Like we can even ward, just back up and like don't die to him. And he would push up every game and then die and just like rage at me. So like I hated playing with him so much. So we were scrimming against Exertus, and it was going really well, and they were like one of the better teams then. And I was 4-0 as Fenrir, but he was feeding. He was like 0-3, 0-4, and he was getting so mad that game because like I wasn't helping him at all in mid. And I remember the first time I ganked mid, I jumped into mid and I ulted as Fenrir, and my ult didn't work. Like, have you heard that bug as Fenrir where you just can't chomp?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It was
that
pretty buggy
actually
back then.
it happened to me. The same bug happened to me at Worlds this year or last
Really?
year technically. Yeah, in
Wow.
game 3 I think against Rival in the finals. Yeah. You remember when we paused? That's why we paused, and they like reset
Oh,
the
no way.
yeah. So it's just fun. So it's funny to think about that. Um. So yeah, that bug happened, and he's like, "Oh my god, you're so bad. Like, how did you miss your ult?" He was literally right in front. I'm like telling, and he's like, "Stop making excuses. You're just so bad at the game." And like he was like being like so toxic to me. So I remember I got really mad, so I just left. I left Mumble at the time. I think that's the like the voice system we were using. I still use that every once in a while. And then I just closed Smite mid scrim, left, and then Kiki ended up hating me forever, and it was funny for like 6 months. And then I was still friends with Mortar, and he was still on that team. And then what ended up happening is that they got rid of Harry and whatever, and then they teamed with DJ, and I was on a team. It was Down to Frag. Do you guys remember that name or no? Probably
I
not.
do remember
Yeah,
that
you
one.
remember
Yeah.
that name? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
D2R.
yeah, Down to Frag. They had Mini Pern for like the majority of that team, but he ended up oversleeping. So if you want to be in anything competitive, don't oversleep, because that's your downfall. I feel like, because yeah, he ended up oversleeping for a tournament, and they ended up using me, and it went pretty well. It was like one of the whatever it was. I forget what event it was. I think it was like. I think it was like one of those weekend events or something. I can't remember, but they ended up using me. It went pretty well, so they were like, yeah, we're just gonna stick with you. And then I ended up playing with DJ for a little bit, and then the problem with that team is we can never find a mid laner. Because they had I joined they had I forgot his name, I forgot his name. Everybody thought he was really good, but he ended up quitting Smite too at that point. So we were like just using like a bunch of different mid laners. We never really found a mid laner, so that team kind of fell apart. And then the qualifier was happening for season 1 to get into SPL, and oh my god, that was the EU was so much more stacked with like players that were actually good. Like, cuz the qualifier when I played, like I had DJ play with me, and like I talked to Cyclone and Sam. Like there was a group of us, probably of like 8, that we just like hung out and played with, and like DJ didn't really hang out with us that much, but he was good. So like we picked him. So DJ was actually on the original Fat Chunks roster, and he scrimmed with us for like a couple weeks. Like he basically scrimmed with us all the way up until SPL started, and he played in the qualifier. There was one game in the qualifier, you could probably find it somewhere. Me and him, we had Soulshiner, who's also a jungler, and like he hung out with us basically. And so I think Sam was gone, Sam Shrew. So we had to use Soulshiner jungle, and then me and DJ laned in the qualifier games. We played Ymir Ra against one team, and we won like easily. We were just killing them over and like it was the games like that. We like DJ played like Baka jungle, and like Soul, like I played Hades in dual lane by myself, and then so like we double jungled like one game. Like we did like the most like ridiculous things, and we just like pub stomp. It was like so like because it's like crazy, because like you guys were probably like maybe not amazing, but you were definitely better than the teams that we were playing against back then. Like I don't even remember. So yeah, DJ was on the original Fat Chunks roster, but then him and Herwind didn't really mesh well together. And the funniest thing I remember with him and Herwind was DJ was playing Circuit, and Herwind was playing Aokwang, and DJ Circuit ulted their mid laner just like towards him, and Herwind missed his ult. And to be like for Herwind, like hitting a Kukulkan ult or Aokwang, which is off a Circuit ult, is like maybe now like it's a lot easier just because people are more practiced, but like it was like his first team he was on, like it was pretty hard back then. I feel like I'll give it to him. Like it was a lot easier to like hit it off Athena taunt or whatever compared to
It had a longer winder, right? When you press it, it took longer than
and there was like an
now for it
immunity
to come
frame,
out
I think,
and
as well.
fall out.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
the thing. You could
Yeah.
miss it off. I remember that was my biggest trouble is like Merc Grab as well did the same thing where it made immunity frames for the person that was being thrown. Same with Circuit ult. So you could mess it up. So you could ult and it would just go straight through them. So like I can definitely see where Hurrywind's coming from.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, no, it was really hard to do, and DJ's like, how you always miss off my setup as Circuit mid, like, and he'd get like really mad, and then like they would just always argue about like stupid like stuff like that, like it was always back to like the Circuit like Alquang thing I remember. So I was like, yeah, this is probably not gonna work. And like DJ didn't like playing with Samshrew because Samshrew was so young, and he's like, he's not, like DJ, like, cause DJ's older. Like he was probably like 24, 23. I forget how old he was then, but he was like a lot older than all of us because he, um, well, from that team in particular, because there was Cyclone, me, Herwind, and Samshrew. And like I'm 24 now, so I was the oldest. And I think Herwin's the same age as me, but it's just so funny thinking back to that. So we ended up replacing him, and we also had Soulshiner at one point, but Soulshiner played college football, so he couldn't play SPL, so ended up not using him. So week 1 of the SPL, we didn't have a jungler going into it, I remember. So we used Rush, who was like on denial or something at that point. And I remember he like said he wanted to coach our team, but I think he just wanted a spot, and he like wanted to try to like finagle his way onto like getting a jungle spot or whatever. So like we're like, yeah, we don't want you as a jungle. Like you said you were just gonna coach, and he's like, yeah. So then he got really mad. I remember he ended up leaving, and then I remember I think I messaged Snoopy to pick up Unique, and there's a whole long story about that. But basically, I couldn't message him because he had whispers turned off for non-friends. I used to be able to do that, I think, where you couldn't message. Do you guys remember that or no? I don't know if it's still in the game now. But you used to not be able to message people that weren't on your friends list, basically. So I couldn't message him. So we ended up picking him, and then we ended up not doing that great, and we went to regionals and didn't do that great there either. But we did okay, actually. We did okay. But yeah, so that was like my season 1 experience. So all right, we'll get into regionals now and
All
talk
right.
about your insane run, basically. So I remember watching that set, and I thought you guys were gonna lose whatever game it was for game 3 or game. Was it a 5-game set or a 3-game set? Or
It was a 3-game
yeah,
set. Yeah.
what game was the crazy game that you guys came
It
back?
was
You can go through it
game
all.
2.
Yeah, game 2.
Yeah,
I'll let you
well,
go through it all. You could start game 1, but oh my god, I remember watching that game still, and I thought you guys were just gonna lose for sure.
yeah.
That was like the craziest thing I've ever watched, I remember.
So game 1, I don't think this is our like first time at LAN.
Mhm.
I guess it's actually super important. So what we had is we had the 7-person team, right? Because we had coach and we had Bird, both as I guess support staff, which was probably too many, but they both brought unique things, so it worked for us at the time. So leading up to this, we were scrimming SPL teams, and we were a really good scrim team. We'd win like almost every game, and it was perfect. And like we just smashed everyone. We were actually pretty confident going into it. And then for that LAN, one of the few LANs that Harris did this, they had us over, and then we got to scrim there for like, was it like a week before Twig? I can't remember. But like all the
Yeah.
teams had like computers, and we could just scrim all day for a few days. And
That's
we
sick.
lost so many scrims. Like at one point, Captain Coach or Captain Oates at the time, he started crying because he just like in tears because it was going so bad, and he thought we were gonna lose already. So morale wasn't fantastic going into it. But we went against C9, so that was our first thing of the first LAN game ever, I guess, for most of us, except for Murder. And game 1 wasn't horrible, but we didn't win, and we weren't ever going to win it. And then we have game 2,
Man.
and it's much the same. But to everyone's credit, no one, especially because none of us had been to LAN before, none of us gave up at any point. Like everyone was in it till the end, especially Murder. Murder has a very bipolar LAN attitude, I guess. I can get more into that later. But he was super in it, and he was probably the reason we ended up winning. Even though Reppy gets all the credit, it was Murder as a shot caller, I guess, which was really important for that set. But in game 2, it was going pretty bad, and then they just tried to end, right? And it was one of those things where they could have done it cleaner, right? I bet you all of them have gone back and they watched the game and they said, if we just didn't dive the Titan, if we just chilled out, took another Phoenix, we'd be fine. Or just waited for a minion wave and then went in, it would have been fine.
Were all
But
3
the Titan
Phoenixes down? I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure
I'm
all
not
3
sure.
Phoenixes were down because I remember that. Maybe they weren't, but
No, they might have been actually.
Yeah,
They might have been,
I
but it wasn't a perfect siege, right? They went one at a time. I think someone wasn't there, or they could have waited for a minion wave. But it's one of those things that I bet you look back and say, if we're just a bit more patient, easy game, would have closed it out. But whatever they did, they fucked it up on the kill, and the Titan was like at the end. It came down to They'd all died, and it was Prime and Murder who were still alive, and then a Titan room full of minions. And I remember watching this like in slow mo because the Titan had no health for what felt like forever. Um, and the minions are coming in and coming in. And I think it was the patch or two before this one, but Ares got a buff. So Ares got a buff just before the LAN, where his 3 staggers minions. And without that buff, because it was so important to have the flamethrower from his shield to knock back all the minions, and we had the cannon tanking some from Vulcan and stuff like that. But it came down to that pretty much. Otherwise, the minions would have ended. But we held that one push, and then after that, they were a bit rattled by it, I think, because then their final pushes, because at that point we have no Phoenixes up, and the Titan is pretty much dead, right? They could walk in, and at the games they didn't win at that push, but they still should have won. But then I think it was Optics tried to push on his own, and people came in at one by one. But no, they ended up having one final 5v5, I guess, which was quite split as we were trying to stop them getting into the base. Where we won that one. I remember in particular, because a lot of the credit goes to Reppy, but if you watch all of that back, every single person did amazing stuff in that situation, and you can talk to everyone on the team, and they tell you how perfect they played it and that what they did. But it was super key how everyone played.
Yeah.
And then we got the Phoenixes back up, and then from then on, then it was the Reppy show where he was just chop 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 Fatalis Kali's online,
Didn't you have
murdered
Afro
everyone.
too that game, right? Wasn't Comfrey
Yeah,
Afro?
we did.
Yeah.
Wait, was he? Yeah, he was. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was Afro Kali, and we
Yeah,
had
that's crazy.
those two running up mid while the rest of us backed to defend as they tried to push, and then that's when they did the like 2v4 or 2v5 or something down mid lane. And then we won that game, and then we went into game 3, and I am still to this day very mad, and I do not like Optics as a person. Even now, I still hold this, and he's the only reason I have a Smite career is because he decided to troll game 3. But I couldn't even imagine. I'm still like to this moment. It makes me so angry to think that they should have beaten us 2-0, and then he starts trolling in the third game when they still have everything to play for. Like all they need to do is just kind of double down and not troll. Even if they play worse, they play a bit tilted. That's fine. That kind of stuff happens. But he literally trolled and started portaling around with Janice and stealing mid waves when the game wasn't going perfect for them. And to this, I can't believe it. He's got nasty words to say about him, but
No, yeah,
it's horrible.
That sucks,
Which is kind of bittersweet, right? Because we
Yeah.
got through off that. We got through our first LAN jitters, and then we had a fantastic tournament after that. But to win because he trolled, and more importantly, like Emily too didn't get a shot at Worlds. Everyone on that team didn't get a shot at Worlds because he couldn't stomach his pride, and because he was kind of half the reason why they lost. So it was. Ugh,
That
bothered
was Young Bay's basically like last
Mm.
really good team he was on too, right? It was Emilito and Young
Yeah,
Bay
pretty
dual
much.
lane, and then Optics mid.
No, Emily too was solo.
Oh yeah, no, he was support
Mm.
for most of the season, I think, and then he ended up swapping right at the end
Yeah,
or something
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
That's it, yeah.
I remember he played Baka in one of the games too against you guys, I think, right?
Yeah, back then the meta was mostly, I think Comfrey went with Hell and Afro, and that's kind of his thing. But everyone was playing. I think there was some Nuwa because she was really OP at that point because ult is when they changed it, and ult did like insane amounts of damage pretty early.
Yeah.
Ra was meta in EU, and I remember Comfrey and Scrims just getting sniped by Ra at level 5 and dying every single time. And then Baka was big as well because Baka ate the other two up. So
Yeah.
but,
So
yeah, no.
you guys got to the finals, right? Twig as
Mm.
well, because that's how you qualified. And did you guys play against each other in the finals then, or how
We
did
did,
that
yeah.
work? Yeah.
What do you remember about it, Twig? Because I only really remember game 2, and I only remember game 2 because, and Twig's gonna laugh at this if he doesn't remember it, is I played on her, and I fragged. When you've got like a few games where you have that complete dominant performance and it just sticks with you. That was probably the best Smite I've played on a stage or ever. Was that game with Honor, and I can't play Honor for crap anymore. Well, I say he's a terrible character, but
Who won
maybe
the
it's just
set
because.
between you guys?
Oh, we did.
You guys
They
did?
did. They
Mm.
won the set. I remember like we scrimmed them like the day before, since obviously we're on the opposite side of the bracket. So like obviously it's just what teams do. But like we learned so much from them. Like it was like not particularly from the way they played, but just like back then mid camp wards were like not like they weren't like a thing. Like it's just what Titan did. Like they put like a ward the high side of each like mid camp, you know, just so that you could see the whole crossroads of everywhere where everyone go. And that's like such a basic thing
Yeah,
these
it's
days.
funny
But
to think about stuff like that.
like I remember they did that like the entire like first 20 minutes of like I think both scrims we played, and we were like, oh, we just got to sentry that. We can't like let them have that vision, and like we got to put our wards of our own when we're winning as well to on their high sides, and like that. If we hadn't scrimmed them like that day, I think it was the day before the day the tournament started, the morning the tournament started. I remember I don't know if we'd have beaten was it Mortality? That was like Rafa and Frezzy's team at the time. And we smacked them like 3-0, but like I don't know, like they didn't play well and we did play well. So did we was how many sets were played? Was
It
that
was quarterfinals. So you played. Who did you play
Oh, we
first?
played TSM first. We played TSM with like Game
You know,
Hunter, right?
was TSM not the semis?
No, Mortality was first seed. They like they were first
Oh, they
seed
got a
off
bye bracket, right?
so they got a bye bracket. They were like
Hmm.
semi-finals for us, and the first round was it was TSM with Trix, Kuvo, Game Hunter. I don't know what mid and solo
Zimp was
they.
coach.
Oh yeah, Zimp
Game Hunter
was
was solo. Trix
there.
and oh, what's his name?
Was Lobster
Smek.
on that team?
Lobster mid and Smek. Smek
Yeah,
Smack.
ADC?
I remember Smack. I remember that name. The Hunter, right?
Smek
Yeah.
was great. I
Wait,
love
was Smek still there at that point? He was, right? Because I
Yeah,
know
I
Zimp
think
wanted to play ADC. I think
yeah,
Smek retired after that one, right?
yeah, and Game Hunter wasn't like he apparently didn't play the game for like a month or something before that. And at the time he was like people considered him like the best player in the world considering his launch tournament like Penta and all that.
Yeah.
And like I remember he let them down really hard apparently, like that's what I was told, even though like Game Hunter was such a beast back then, but he didn't do very good and like the whole of TSM didn't do very good to be honest. And like I don't even remember the games against them too much, but I remember the games against Mortality were like the scrims against Nate's team was so good for us at the time, and then I don't remember the finals well at all. I don't remember them being particularly one-sided, but I just don't really remember them.
I think game one was close, game two wasn't. But I remember Reels coming into it saying, like afterwards, he didn't care about it, you know, because everyone had made worlds at that point, or we
Mhm.
had made worlds at that point. So it doesn't matter who wins really. It's a tiny bit of money and seeding, so it was
Yeah,
pretty chill going into it. But I remember Real saying that he didn't care what happened.
I mean, the person I am now would really hate that set, but like I completely understand it. Like we'd
Hmm.
made it to Worlds, there wasn't much to play for. You could argue about brackets all day, but like it just didn't matter
You
apart
never
from a
know
little bit of
too with
prestige.
the
Though
brackets.
that me now would say just win, like play to win, like show anything you have to. Like it doesn't matter. Like just win. That's all you really want to be is be the best you can be all the time.
Mhm.
And like I'd want to win, but then I didn't really care. I remember reels and zeros before we even played them being like it doesn't really matter. Like let's just chill, you know. And I don't know if I agree with that, but yeah, it's what we did. I think we lost fair and square for sure, but um, I remember reels was never really that try hard on that game.
Yeah. So for let's talk about worlds then. So I was just
Oh, can I
expect.
just go to the bathroom before we do
Yes.
this?
Yeah, we could take a break.
Yeah, I'll be 2 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. No worries.
Sorry.
Oh, in that case,
It's
I'll
all
grab
good.
coffee then.
All
All
right.
right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
A quick intermission then.
Yeah. Quick
All right.
intermission. I'll,
Cool. Be
I'll
back.
talk to chat. Does Cloud9 win regionals if they had beaten Titan? I mean, there you could always do what ifs. Like, who knows? Do I like the fish molly emote? What do you think of the Deathwalker adapting team? I don't think anything's been announced yet, so who knows if it's true. You gotta teach the high-res guys how to. I I like F dot. I like that their domination podcast, the one that Aggro and Hindu does. Does F dot do a podcast? Oh no, he's doing the DM one. I didn't watch it yet though. Have you? Have I figured out a name for a show? I haven't figured out a name for a show yet. They used to do an interview show, yeah. Can you put links to the games you're talking about? Yeah, I could try to find some of the games actually right now. Hold on, let's see. Let's see. Oh, Aquila. Let's see if I can find them. Here we go. Here's game one of the finals, I'm pretty sure. That we were talking, that Twig and, that Twig and Ataraxia talked about. Just call it talk show. I should just call it talk show. Chunk's Corner. This how it's my. Oh yeah, sweet. I have no idea. Chunks chat. I want to find the one Aquila versus Cloud9. That's the crazy one. Let's see if I can find that one. Game 2, here we go. I think this is it.
Like, hey, you're tight.
Yeah, 3 Phoenixes down. Confirmed. Yo, here's this game. Yo, Rage Merc, thanks for the bits. Mid mod, nice. But yeah, that's that game.
Yo.
Yo,
So,
I just looked at the game 2 versus Cloud9 Aquila. It was three Phoenixes down with the Titan at one hit. That's crazy. I still remember watching that game. I was like, there's no way they win that. Like it was like the craziest thing ever. Do you remember watching it at the event or no?
I remember watching it. It still is like the biggest comeback of all time, right?
Yeah, it has to be the biggest comeback of all time. I feel like there was like a pretty
Oh,
like crazy game like season 5, the rival versus
yeah,
Dig.
the rival,
Yeah.
right? Your rival came back against Dig. That was
Yeah.
a game 2, I think.
Yeah,
That was
the-
huge.
The
but-
Titan was like at 1 HP. It was like really low, I remember. Like it was this season, but I don't think there was ever a comeback to the extent of that. Like that's still the biggest comeback ever. It's insane.
Which game is this?
We're talking about game 2, like your game 2
Oh,
against
right.
Cloud9. Like that's probably the biggest comeback game like of all time for sure. Still, I just looked right now to see. I just linked it in chat. The game 2. It was 3 Phoenixes down. So it was 3
And it was
Phoenixes
it was
down.
the Flames, right? You could watch it, and that's.
Yeah. Insane.
'Cause I can't. It was such a close. Like the buff had just come out, you know. Like it was a patch or two before the LAN.
Yeah. It's just I can't like it's just I remember watching that game still to this day and I was like holy cow, this team, if they win it'll be the craziest. And then you guys end up winning and then you guys end up winning game 3 and I didn't even know that Optics trolled. Like that's new to me. And then yeah. So okay, so we'll talk about Worlds then. Like for me, I don't really have much to talk about because I just watched it from home. That's the only Worlds that I didn't go to, basically. Yeah, that's the only Worlds I was never at. So, are you guys good to get back into it?
Yeah,
Sure,
ready when
yeah.
you are.
All right, sweet. So, Worlds, you guys obviously you guys had to switch like your name like a million times, so you guys ended up with Titan by Worlds, right? That's like the most
Yeah.
confusing thing. Yeah. So you guys were
So
Titan. Go
We
ahead.
were Agilitas before in the Challenger Cup, and
Uh-huh.
then when we qualified, or I think just before we qualified, because we played against, it was like, we had the weekly still going by then, but all the good teams are in the SPL. So it was us and Potato Boys. We played against them every week in the finals.
Was that
Um,
Suntouch and Adapting's team, right?
yeah, it was Suntouch, Adapting, Proxy QQ, maybe NQ, and
Yeah.
even then, like Adapting had just started turning up at that point. And our strategy, we won every single week. We went undefeated, but every single time we were like, all right, strategy for the finals, because it was always against them every single week. We're like, all right, ban Adapting. And back then it was Mercury and Freya is what we played in the jungle. We just every single game ban them.
That's funny.
And there was no question about anyone else. It was always just focus Adapting out and be done with it. But he was really good, and he still is, obviously. But it's kind of crazy how he went, seeing him from the Challenge Cup, and then next year or the year after, he's hanging up in winning worlds.
Yeah. All right, so season 1, who did you guys play in the first round? Do you guys remember any of your matchups? Like, did
Oh,
anything
I
stick out
remember.
early on? Oh my God,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I remember it was you guys played against China, right?
Well, we played against China.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, talk about that set. What round was it? Was that the first like set
Well, I think
or
we
whatever?
need a bit of context on this beforehand. In
Okay.
that,
All right.
so we won regionals. Essentially, most people would put it down to Carly, and
Mhm.
in EU, because we scrimmed Twig's team non-stop, and in EU, Carly was busted. That's the way everyone saw it. So when we went to Worlds, we had the scrim rooms in the hotels, which is one of the only times they did it at Worlds. So everyone had computers in a stuffy hotel room, and we got to scrim a ton. And we played Twig. How many games was it, like 19 or 20?
Yeah, we played a lot of scrims. It was about 20, yeah.
And we won. Was it one?
I think you won 3, but like
They weren't
it was like
good wins.
3-17, and yeah, you had one like straight up win, and the rest
Yeah.
were like
They
two
weren't. They
trolls,
were like they've trolled so much because we're so bad. So we
yeah,
had another awful set of scrims, and we did that all the way leading up. So morale was pretty shit. But the one thing I remember about it was Carly never went through. Both teams banned Carly, so no one practiced with it. But we held the opinion that Carly was still busted. So we go into China, and at that point, no one had seen China play really. So it was like, oh, China could be really, really good. They've had the game for a bit now, so oh, what they're going to be like on the big stage. They're so good at esports. They dominate MOBAs. Everyone be afraid of China. So there was a bit of uncertainty about it. And then we come out, and then they start drafting like that, and they went full pressure. And it was like Thanatos and Odin.
I remember the
and
Thanatos.
it went crazy. They just stomped us. And I think a lot of that was probably us rather than them. But we did pick Carly in the game that was really rough, because it was just the best of one, right? And we picked Carly in it because it went through. We're like, wow, they have no idea what they're doing. So we just first pick Carly and get on with it. And it was really bad. And after that game, we managed to pull it back. I think their full press early characters just kind of fell off, and we ended up winning because we can team fight better. But after that, we were like, all right, Carly's not that good. Let's not pick it. But we were wrong, and that was really important when it came to our set, I think, against Twig.
Yeah, we played against TSM, was it? Or no, it wasn't TSM. Cog Red? Cog Red was the team with Divios, Gauze, and like
Snoopy,
who were-
Yannick.
Snoopy
And
Yonic.
Boosh.
I remember they were the team that had won the previous LAN, and they
Yeah.
were looked at as the best. I know
Mhm.
what happened, but like they were looked at as the best. And I remember because there was there a losers bracket or what? But like we beat them in a best of one. I remember we beat them in a best of one, and like that was like such a hype. Like everything just came together.
Hey,
Like
buddy.
we came in super confident after like as like we already said, like beating Nate's team so many times in scrims, and we just all felt so confident, and that we all just knew what to pick and what to do, and we were all champions, and obviously arrogance was like straight up so bad for us, but like we beat Cog Red at the time, and like I remember Zeros played Ao Kwang, and like Ao Kwang was pretty new then, and he did like that was the
Yeah.
not Ao Kwang the dragon, like
The
Ao Kwang
the slapper Ao
assassin.
Kwang. Yeah.
Yeah. And like people would run attack speed, but he ran a lot of like power. Like he was like one of the first to do that too. And I remember I had a sick Agony game, played really well, and like everything came together, and we were just so confident going into semifinals against Titan, like, or not Titan, whatever they called Aquila at the time, or
No, we were Titan for Worlds.
oh, you're Titan, okay. Like we were so confident, and like that was obviously our undoing. And Zeros just thought Kali was the most OP character ever. We didn't know how good Nox was at the time, and like
Nox was insane back then.
like that semifinals, it has been the most depressed and like sad I've ever been like throughout my life. No, but like career in pro like level Smite. That like the money itself was insane. Like coming second compared to coming third, fourth was insane back then. It was like 500,000 or something. It was insane. And like,
well, they didn't
it
pay
wasn't that. It was like
the lower seeds as much either as they do now. Like it was like the first and second got way more too. Like that was the thing.
First got upwards of 1.3k million or something.
Yeah.
Second got like 500k or more, a little bit more, and like the others were not getting much at all. Like, and like the money's whatever, but like the prestige, the like the world season 1 was insane. Like the fans and everything like that. There were so many like casters that Hi-Rez brought on. Like it was just a huge event because of the prize pool, and like 100k people more were watching the tournament too. Like it was the worst loss like of at like my life for sure. And like we just didn't realize stuff. Like Kali wasn't great. We didn't play aggressive for the match day. Like playing different for like between scrims and like matches is a thing, and like I don't think we realized that at the time, and we played down to the game, and we just didn't realize Kali was awful and Nox was super good. And like, well, that's my take on it. I don't think any of us played that well either. So really depressing loss, man. But, yikes.
That's so was it a 2-0 or was it a 2-1? I don't remember that.
I think it was a 2-0. I believe it was a 2-0, yeah.
Yeah. And then
Kali both games.
How the bracket worked is that you played best of ones to place yourself in the single elim bracket, right? So you guys played Cog Red to place yourself in that side of the bracket or whatever, right? When you beat them. Yeah.
We lost to Cog Prime in our best of one.
Yeah. So then that was the semis, right? And then the finals was so I remember Barracuda had that really like he was like really like cocky interview after. He's like, we won already, like the game, like we already know it's over. Like, do you remember watching the interview and were you like, I want to win really bad now after he said that? Or like what did you guys think after that interview? Because I remember he said like, yeah, it's over, like we won, like we beat Cog Red, they're the best team other than us.
We were really confident going into it because we'd realized at that point that we were kind of a momentum team, right? Like our first games at the 2 lands that we'd been to had been awful, but once we warm up, we get into a machine mode, you know, and then when we're unbeatable, we thought we played the game the best back then. We thought we had a great grasp on pick and ban. So even though we'd lost them prior, I think we felt really confident just because we'd gotten it. For us, it really was like we have. Everyone talks about first land jitters, but I think our team has been one of the clearest cut examples of it, in that we were dreadful. We were a very bad team, you know, a team that almost loses to China, to a team that would go to almost win a tournament, you know, or win the tournament for regionals before. So it really was a warm-up thing. So we were super confident going into it.
So do any of the games really stick out? Game 3 probably sticks out, right? Because that's the first game you guys won, right?
Yeah, so game 1 and 2. So it was. I talked before about Murder being bipolar at lands and stuff.
Yeah.
So Murder is the best person I've ever been on a team with, in terms of, you know, like winning a game. You know, like he just come out and he'd come with these great calls and he had so much energy and it was infectious and it was so important in that game, in that set against C9 and any victory, because he was. Back then, Twig talked about the sentries on the mid camps. The way that we played it was we would pick a solid mid trio, and then we'd aim for those mid camps, and we would pick a fight and we'd win. So we'd ward up so we know they'll come, and then we'd pounce on them because speeds weren't not everyone had beads and stuff like that. So that was like Blink Amir or Blink Ares ults. Prime would play like Ra for snipes, or Vulcan for the follow-up, and Reppy would play whatever Reppy played. But it was all about that. And he was so good at coming up with ideas of how we can get those things going and how we can not get those, like what picks we should do and how we can approach it. But sometimes he would just be so dry and the team would fall apart. If he was not there to carry everyone, the team would not get anywhere. It was very much, and it's not like, so Twig said that, his team was passive and stuff. They would still, like SK had that long game syndrome where they do nothing but then do a team fight and win, right? Ours was, if he wasn't pulling that weight and getting us to do things early, we would just lose. And it wouldn't be a pretty loss either. And to me, that's what those first 2 games were. Like, I can't stress how good he was at those things. I've never been with a player better. And I try to aspire to be like that kind of shot calling, I guess, and trying to get the team motivated and stuff. That really is important to me. So I think that in games 1 and 2, he wasn't there, and it was the same in scrims against Twig's team. So then game 3 happens, and for me, maybe I try not to be too selfish or egotistical about this, but this was, for me, the turning moment in that game was we tried to do that mid stuff again. And back then the ADC really helped for those things because you played Apollo and Rom. And we tried to do a mid fight, and it was the start of the game. We'd been smacked the first 2 games, not even close. And then we have that mid fight, and it was starting to go well. It's pretty good, but then it didn't. And I think we gave up first blood. They got the mid camp, but I had come over like halfway through, and then I went up in the air. I was playing Rom, and then blind snipes, and I think 2 out of 3 completely blind on MLC stealth to get a kill. And I was so hyped off that, and more importantly than that, the crowd was amazing. Like, everyone's got the NA bias, and they were biased towards NA, but everyone was so not wanting to see a 3-0 stomp. It went wild, and you can watch the camera back of me, and I was so happy with that. And I think, in my selfish viewpoint, maybe that's not true, but I feel like that picked the team up a bit.
I don't think that's selfish. I feel like plays like that carries. Definitely like create a lot of momentum. I feel like that's not selfish at all. I think that's completely fair to say.
Well, yeah, I hope that's true. I hope that the rest of the team feel that way.
Yeah.
But we had that, and then from there it was the Kanye life carriage over 2 games because he was playing Ares, right? They first banned Amir in both games against us, and then like he wasn't feeling Ares. He didn't. I don't know what it was, but he wasn't feeling Ares until like game 3, and it's like, all right, screw it. What have we got to lose? We picked Ares, and then bam.
You guys had Athena jungle too, right? It was Athena jungle, Ares support, 4 speeds, and then he just get like the craziest ults, and then Prime would just kill everybody. I remember.
Yeah, that was really good. So then we had 2 games of Ares carrying, and at that point, after we'd won game 4, I have never been so sure of anything except for one thing in my life. The other thing was a biology test I did in high school, which I was so confident for. I'd revised really hard, never tried so hard at anything in my life. And then I got a U, which in British terms is a fail, like the lowest fail you can get. So I think I wrote in the wrong pen and they gave me a 0. Anyway, back to Smite. I was so confident going into that final game. I was like, we've won. And I was so sure of it. And the thing is, I had the draft worked out in my head. I was like, right, they're definitely going to ban Ares this time. So their bans are going to be Amir Ares. So we're going to come off, and then we're going to... I can't remember what it was. Because my memory's crap, but I've reconstructed it in the past, and we didn't do it, and I can't. It was because I can't remember what it was, but we didn't expect Andy to play Ao Kwang, so they first picked Ao Kwang, and then it came down to something stupid, which was the scrims with Twig, in that whenever we did have Ao Kwang against them, they would pick Agni mid, and we thought that like Prime thought that was the counter, so we all went in if we can't play any mid lane except Agni against it. So we ended up screwing up the draft massively, but there were a lot of OP characters at First Worlds. The chief among them were Ao Kwang, Sylvanas, and Sir Cat were 3 really big ones. And we managed to let them take, they were first pick, so we managed to let them take Ao Kwang and Sylvanas. This was Sylvanas who could heal minions, which you can imagine what you can do with that. And it was a blue buff to invade too. So they managed to get both those on first pick, and then we didn't even manage to pick Serket top 3 because the draft went that cocked up that they managed to ban it in the bottom 2. And I can't really remember how it went, but it went pretty awfully. But then the game 5 was actually not that bad. It was we started off really well. We had
Mhm.
Nemesis.
You guys got first blood, right?
Yeah, we did. We had Nemesis, Athena, and Agni, and we were doing our usual strat of farming the mid camps. I was Apollo. I'd fly over. We'd get kills. It was going great, and we'd killed Jeff like a bunch of times on Sylvanas. But then there was just one time where we tried to do it. It was when you're farming someone and they come back with a power spike and then they just don't die.
Yeah.
We invested so much into Jeff again, thinking it was a free kill. He did not die. We got hammered that fight, and then it snowballed out of control. MLC Stealth did his Zymo monsters and killed everyone,
Yeah.
and that was it.
We want to forget that, right?
Yeah, despite the shitty draft, and despite how
Yeah.
it didn't go according to plan, we still had the early game, and then it was just one too many goes on Jeff, and it was that was all she wrote. But it was a really good set. I was happy to have the turnaround, and it was nice,
That's
even though we
funny.
lost. But...
All right, so for season 2, I think we'll just skip
Ooh,
over
one
season
thing,
2.
if you don't mind,
Yeah.
just because I didn't say it. I just
Sure.
wanted to. I don't know if he's even watching, but Comfrey,
Mm-hmm.
while we're going back on the old teammates, Comfrey had a
Okay.
troubled history, I'd say, with reputation as to how good he was at the game. Had a habit of getting soloed, but I will always be so impressed with the player he became at Worlds, because we came in with the usual god pool of Hell and Aphrodite. And we'd never played against N18s before, but you guys were playing Osiris and something else, but Osiris and Hercules, I think, right?
Yeah, like all the
And-
super pressure.
And Comfrey, in the middle of the tournament, after we'd lost to Cog Prime and Omega smacked everyone, he swapped his playstyle. Like he hadn't played Hercules, he hadn't played Osiris, and just like that, he just swapped and changed his playstyle, and he did that for the team, and he did it really well. If you go back and watch, like, he should be
He had like an
eternally
insane
proud of that
Osiris
tournament.
game, right? In game 3, didn't he have like
Yeah.
one of the fights? It was him and Murder, like 2v4'd. I remember he got
Hard carry.
Yeah,
it was
they
so
ganked
good.
him like
I
in the
swear
jungle.
He like soloed Omega one game, no?
He
Or was
probably
it?
did,
He
yeah.
probably- yeah, he
like,
probably
Comfrey
did. I think he
was
did-
nuts that tournament. He was
I
so
remember, I
good,
couldn't
and they
believe it.
weren't his gods. He didn't come in practicing any of those. He swapped mid-tournament and was better than he's ever been. And it was so much respect for that, to be able to do that, because not a lot of people could do that.
Dude, that's crazy. Yeah, the one fight that sticks out of my mind, I think it was in game 3. It was the first Ares game. They ganked him, I remember, I'm pretty sure. And he like almost died, but he hit like a 3-man. It looked like they were gonna instantly die, but him in a 3-man Osiris assault, and then like him and Murder just like killed like all of them almost. They like turned the game for you guys. I felt like.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah,
like
they were chasing
yeah,
him, and he got a
yeah.
big ult, and then Murder ulted them, and then Prime shot them with a something, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was like insane. I remember like that was like another turning point too. I bet for you guys' momentum. Like it was like in game 3, but it was like I remember that. The Osiris game definitely sticks out of my mind for sure. So, I think we'll go. Is there anything you guys want to talk about really quick in season 2? Like, is there anything big that sticks out to you guys that you guys want to hit? Because I think most of season 2, we talked a lot about season 2 last week, so that's why. Because season 3 is like the big season for like all of us. I feel like that we have like the most like in common, because that was when we played the most. So. Is there anything in season 2 that you guys want to talk about really quick, or no?
I could leave season 2 dead and buried if it's up to me, to be honest. There was a role swap in there, wasn't very good. We couldn't move past it.
Too much to talk about. I had a really rough year as a jungler, I think.
That's when you swapped, right? Let's talk about that.
Well, okay, so I'll run through it quickly because it's not that exciting to me. But like, Zeros was a much. Well, he just wasn't a good jungler to play with as a mid laner, and like I just felt like coming off Worlds, like I was like, as I said, I don't think I've ever been more sad about like Smite or competitive gaming at all. And like I just thought, well, how about I jungle? I enjoyed loads of the jungle characters, and I just felt like I did it a lot in rank just for fun, whatever. So I thought, oh, this will be good. And Zeros turned out to be just the excellent mid that he is today. He was just naturally like perfect for like all that mage playstyle, playing defensive, playing back, not dying, like all that kind of stuff was just perfect for him. And like it was a really rough season for me. I still think like the only thing that made it as bad as it was how far adapting was ahead of everyone at that point. I don't think there was a single other jungler that I can like. Repicaz and Kuvo were okay, but like no one was even close to like adapting's level at that point. And even though it was like it was just the worst season I'd say that I had, I felt like I learned a lot. And I don't know, I feel like the main like benefit out of it was how much Zeros like could like show his potential as a player. Because like if he stayed a jungler, I swear he would not like be where he is today, you know? Like I just think mid just fit his playstyle so perfectly. And kind of good for him that it happened. And I don't mind, like I'm glad I'm at the point I am too. So I think overall it worked out in the long term. But it was a weird season. I think Reels mostly just carried, well, we were all okay, but Reels mostly carried us to the success we had
Didn't you
in
guys have
season 2.
one pretty good land before regionals too? Or no? Didn't you guys do
Well,
okay at one of the lands? I'm trying to
we made
remember.
them all right.
Yeah,
Like
you made them all. Didn't you guys do good in spring or summer? Maybe you did. I remember there was one game. I don't know if it was you guys. Cyclone was playing Outwash. Was it against you guys where he killed everybody with Outwash Corpse Explosion through Janasalt?
I don't, no, no,
No, it
no, that
wasn't you
wasn't
guys
us.
then. Okay.
But like
Yeah.
we always lost to TSM, like the
Yeah.
Snoopy and the Onyx team. And I remember just thinking they're like the best team. And I
Mhm.
get, I feel like it was such a loss for NA when Gars like left, like quit Smite, since like he was the best,
Yeah, he
like
was
in
really
season,
good for
going
sure.
to through season 1 and 2, like by a long way he was the best jungler, like on paper. Like Andy won world, sure, but like on paper he was just the best, like to watch and to like learn from. He streamed, and like it was a bad day when he quit Smite, like for NA jungle, that's for sure. Since I feel like he would have probably, lots of other people would have learned a lot from him, you know.
Yeah,
um
I 100% agree with that for sure. And
but
like
I
like
think
Andy, I
so they
think even
kept
learned a
fucking us
lot
up.
from Gars too, just from like a lot of because Gars, everybody knows Gars as like Thor Gars or whatever, and like I feel like Andy got like a lot of that too from Gars. Like he's good at Thor too, but like Gars kind of paved the way for sure. I feel like really early on.
Yeah, like he was good at like Circuit, Hunbats. Like I just
Hmm.
remember him not being bad at anything. And like I just remember watching a stream and learning so much from him, like just basic stuff that like I never really thought of. And I remember we lost spring and summer to them. I don't remember fall exactly, but like that maybe that was the one that qualified us to worlds. I'm not
Yeah,
sure,
fall. You
but like
guys, you so well. Let's talk about that. So in fall. So really quick, I guess we could touch on you. Who'd you guys? Did you even make Super Regionals, Nate, or no? What happened with your
yeah,
team?
yeah. I remember Super Regionals a ton, not from my perspective, but because of Twig.
Uh huh.
So like we'd had a really rough year. We tried roll swaps and all that stuff, but the team just wasn't working as a team anymore, you know, like and we lost to what was the Cringe Crew team? Were they called Cringe Crew then?
Was that the
it
No.
might
Emilzy
have been
team you're thinking?
LC.
LC, Lonely Conspiracy. We lost to LC, which was our super low point. They weren't a bad team, but we always thought that, you know, with our pedigree, we should have been better. But we lost to them. We got first rounded. And at that point, I think we hadn't said it, but we all knew the team was over. And I know me and Prime wanted to stick together, or well, you never know what Prime's thinking. But I thought that we wanted to stick together. I wanted to stick with Prime,
Yeah.
and I'm really glad that he did stick with me. But we were looking at options and stuff, and I will never forget the way Twig played in because when you lose first round, you pick up a lot about what's going on with teams, especially teams that aren't doing all.
Yeah.
And there was a ton of drama within Fnatic at that point. Particularly, I remember it being thrown around that Zero said he wasn't going to play. They lost a match that they didn't think they should have lost, and then they had to go into the losers bracket, the wildcard bracket,
It
right?
was like, yeah, we
And
had
I
to go
remember
into
Zero
wildcard,
saying
yeah.
he's not playing tomorrow. I'm not doing it. I don't want to play. And then those games came round, and it was against, I think it was against Zap's team. I think
Yeah,
it
it
was. It
was
was
yeah,
T9 with
Eager.
Omega, right?
Yes,
Eager,
no, it's
yeah.
Eager.
Or
So
Eager.
I want to say we talked about this a little bit last week, but after Eager beat I think they were MV or whatever, it was Weekend's team at the time in Allied. Omega was like, "We're going to Worlds!" Like he thought that they already won too. So I was like, as soon as I was there, I remember I was watching when he yelled that, and I was like, "They're losing tomorrow, whoever they play against in that game. They're 100% losing." I remember saying that, and yeah. So go ahead. Sorry for interrupting you. I just wanted to say
So
that.
I just remember that because that team was in tatters. You know, there was no
Mhm.
morale left, and as soon as it was lost, you know, they were gonna put up. But it was like Twig was. He just didn't give a crap, and he played Humbats every game, and he just hard carried on his own every game, and it was all about Twig, and it was Humbats all this, Humbats doing that, and it was so good. And I remember after thinking, I was like, wow, I really hope that Fnatic do terribly at Worlds because I want to team with Twig next year. I was like, yeah, please, please lose. Um, but from
Yeah,
that point, that's when I saw that. I was like, wow, I really hope that I can be on a team with him in season 3.
it sparked a memory now because we had to beat LC, London Conspiracy, and they weren't bad at the time. Like that was a team with Emilzy, and like he wasn't bad back then. Like we picked him up long after that, but he wasn't bad back then. Shaggy Shank wasn't bad ADC. I think Reppy was jungling. No. Reppy
No,
didn't
Rappi
jungle
was still with us.
then.
I think they had Kara, right? Kara was Suntouch, maybe?
Oh yeah, Kero
They have
was like
Suntouch at that point?
Oh yeah, I
Kero
remember
and
Caro.
They did have
was it
Suntouch because
Suntouch
we
and
did the
Zashu?
Omen
Beefy.
thing. Yeah, it was Zashu. Zashu,
Oh, it was
Suntouch.
Cherry. It was
Oh,
Cherry
Cherry.
Jungle. Yeah, it
Cherry,
was
I'm
Cherry
sorry.
Jungle. I remember because
it
I
Cherry?
remember their team. Yeah, it was Cherry. It was Cherry Jungle, and he was good too back then. He was way better than people.
Cherry was
and Emilzy.
insane.
Cherry and Emilzy were like, and Cherry was a Lanimal his whole career. Like, there's
Yeah.
no like arguing about that. Like, and they were a good team. And I remember. Oh no, that wasn't the game that I figured out. Bats was just super OP, but like I just remember those games were super close, and I just remember how good I felt since I respected Cheerio just as an equal, you know, like just as good as me, you know, on a good day he's better or he does better for his team. And I remember that it was nice that I think Badger and Reels had really good games, those games. But yeah, I do remember those games, and that was like I'm glad we beat them since I do think LC might have even beaten Eager as well had they beaten us since, and that would have been so nice for Cherio, you know, and everyone else. And but like Eager were like super tricky since they were like they tapped into like I know like loads of different teams throughout the years have like tapped into this, but like they tapped into like full pressure, like the whole idea of like picking Bologna solo. They picked Thanatos jungle with a pot, Isis mid with a pot, and like a pretty high pressure dual lane. And like they just took everything. Like they took every single mid camp. They looked for reds. The Thana Dare, I think, looked for speed. And like sometimes they got it with Bologna coming over too. And like that was like but back then I don't know like people hadn't like energy were the first team to really like show how broken it really was like to just get full pressure and just run the game. But like they did that to us, and I just remember thinking like we kept saying like, oh, if we make it to late game we win, if we make it. And like Zeros would play like Zhong and I'd play Hunbats, and I just remember the games were pretty good even for me, but like it was so hard, I felt like, because nobody made a play to get back in the game on that team ever, apart from me, I guess. And like, I did not play well like on that team in season 2, but like, no one was ever a playmaker, and I think that's what made it so hard when we were getting so out pressured. But yeah, we did make it somehow, and that felt really good. I think after we beat them game 2, I think we'd lost game 1, but after we beat them game 2, like Reels was a bit like Nate said, like Murder was, where if we were like if something good happened, he'd just carry like everyone's energy. He'd be shouting good stuff about Maniac too. Like Maniac would be shouting at the other team and everything.
Yeah,
Like,
I remember he was
him
yelling
shouting at
Omega after he killed him that one time. I was watching it in studio, I remember, yeah.
That wasn't the only time too. I think he said it a few times, but like the one that was really audible was at the Phoenix when he plucked Omega like with Sobek and like was just shouting Omega and stuff like I'm gonna die, all that stuff. Like I'd laughed so much. And like Maniac and Reels, the way they made a LAN, like that's unforgettable. Like the way they kind of carried it just felt like you couldn't do anything wrong. Like we would just win, like confidence everywhere, and like that was just like I don't know, that it was such an amazing feeling to win with, and maybe that carried me to play really well too. So
that's awesome. That's like
yeah,
I love stuff like that.
Yeah, they were great, honestly. Like and badgers like shouting "Geb Geb Geb," you know, like just stuff like that just really carried and made it like the lands and memories, like the great stuff that they are.
Oh man. All right, so season 2 Worlds, me and Nate went as analysts. And that's like the first time I think I really got to meet you like in person. Like I think
Yeah,
I
I think
saw
so.
you a little bit like at Super Regionals or whatever. Like did we ever have any talks, Twig? I don't think I really talked to season 2 Super Regionals. I might have, but like very
I don't think
briefly.
so.
Is
I
there
remember like I always like knew you and kind of respected you and like liked you because you're a pretty nice guy, right? But like I don't remember knowing you very well until like season 3, maybe when we talked in the studio a little bit more, but when we had like LAN events. But no, I don't think we knew each other well.
Um,
All right, sorry about that. Somebody was knocking on my door.
oh, it's,
It's all right.
we can't see your camera, so I thought you DC'd or something.
No, no, no. All right.
But no,
So
we didn't
where
know
were
each
you
other
at?
that
Sorry,
well.
somebody was knocking on my door trying to talk to me.
No,
Wow,
I was
what
just
a
saying,
host.
I don't think we knew each other well yet.
I'm so sorry. Dude, this is what the show is all about, though. It's just supposed to be really chill, so we're chilling. But yeah, I heard most of it. You were talking about, look at how red I am, dude. You can't see it because look on stream. Anyways, we were talking about,
You're pretty red.
I don't even know what we're talking about, dude. I'm just completely lost. But anyways, oh no, we were talking about where if you've met me or we had any conversations, right?
Just barely. No, I
Yeah.
don't think we properly met each other.
I think
until
I said like
later.
hi, I like introduced myself to like all the EU teams. I'm pretty sure. Who was Ependary with? Wasn't he with one of the teams as their coach or sub?
He was our coach, yeah.
Yeah,
On
cause
Fnatic.
he remember I talked to him because I used to play ranked with him a lot like back in season 0. I remember I talked to him a bit. But yeah, one quick story too I'll share about the analyst thing is that I remember I messaged you. I'm like, hey, do you want a room? Because I didn't want a room with Zap because that was like after me and Zap didn't team together. Do you remember that? And you're like, yeah,
I do
sure,
remember
whatever.
this,
Yeah,
yeah.
you were like, yeah, it's fine. Like you were like all really cool about it, but it ended up working out. Like I had like me and Zap like never hated each other. It was just awkward, I guess. So like that was the thing. And then we ended up talking. It was chill, but it was just super funny. And you're like, oh yeah, no problem. Like you were like super nice about it and everything. I'm like, oh that's cool. And I remember talking to you, and then I remember you like you dressed like the best out of like all the analysts. I remember too. Like you were just looking fly like at every day. Like
Oh, thank you.
yeah, I remember that was like the first event that like I had to like dress up for really, and like I was like so noob at dressing. I was so bad. It was pretty funny. But
I love the analyst. That was, I think for me, that's been the most fun I've had at Worlds. I guess probably because I've lost. Yours is probably the most recent one with a winning, but I had
yeah.
so much fun with that, the analyst desk and like talking with everyone backstage and stuff. It was awesome, I think.
For
I had
me,
such a good laugh.
oh man, I was so sick. You remember how sick I got or no?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember because it was the
Oh
day you
my
were
God.
meant to cast, or
I
it was
was
the
meant
first
to
day you were going to go on the analyst,
Yeah.
and you were like,
So it
I
was
can't remember what it was, but you were dying.
Yeah, so it was me and Zap. I was there as a caster, I guess, not even an analyst, as a guest caster. I was supposed to do 4 games, and then Zap was gonna do 4 games. But I got really sick. I talked about it a little bit last week, but yeah, I remember Zap's like, "You're lying. You just want to get out of it." And when he said that to me, I was like, "I am not missing the entire day." And I showed up and I at least did 2 games, but yeah. Ugh.
You were really sick. I remember, like you were, because I saw you
Yeah.
backstage. I think they were trying to do makeup for you, because it was
Yeah.
everyone would have talked about it backstage, saying, "Oh, you're really sick and you've not come in." And I remember seeing you later in the day, and you came in, to be fair, like, and you did really well on the cast.
I was in the
remember, despite
hospital that morning. Yeah, I got
Yeah, I
IV
remember you saying
fluid, and then I went back to my hotel. Kiki and Shaywas picked me up, drove me back to the hotel. I got in the shower. I remember I showered, put my clothes on, I sat down on my bed, and I like almost passed out. I was like lightheaded. I was like, okay, I don't know if I should do this, but I'm like, I'm doing it because Zap said that. I remember that's what kept me going that day. Is that he said you're just trying to get out of it, basically. So it was just really funny, and what's it called? Um, yeah. I don't really remember that much about that event just because I was so sick, which is really frustrating because I remember I had fun, but I was just so sick the entire time. But yeah,
Hmm.
that was like what it was for me. So, is there anything you want to talk about from that event, Twig? Like anything do you remember? Like what I forget what team what teams did you play against?
Oh, we got like, well, I think we beat like there was like,
The
you always did the
yeah,
beat
the
the
wild card
Chinese
teams.
and,
Yeah.
yeah, random teams first, but like in the quarterfinals we played against it was Epsilon at the time, right? And like they were just better than us in every way. Like we just got out pressured for the most part, but like we got outplayed as well. We weren't The team wasn't in a healthy spot. Like in some weird world, maybe we have a good start and like the momentum that I was talking about, like with Reels and Maniac and whatever, like carries us through. But like we weren't better than them. I don't think we weren't happy as a team. We weren't in a good spot. I feel like, all right, well, maybe I'm wrong, but like I feel like I was taken to Worlds kind of out of pity by the team, like because they didn't trust me or like think I was very good at all. And I think they knew before the event even started that I was getting kicked. Like, and I guess the same was true for Badger. I guess in hindsight, like he got kicked too. But like it was not a good environment. I don't think we were confident. And that's the thing, like a team is just like a relationship in a way, like like with like you got to have trust in each member, like complete and utter trust in each member, otherwise like you'll never be successful. Like there's just no
100%
way.
agree.
And like there was no trust. At least I had trust in the rest of the team, but they didn't have trust in me. So like it was never happening, and I'm kind of glad that we got knocked out in the quarters, like before we embarrassed ourselves in any further round. Like we weren't a healthy team, and like looking back, even though I think we had good names and on paper, like good players on paper, we never deserved to win anything on that team. So um like that's all I'll say. Like Epsilon beat us and they deserved it fair and square. Adapting played like a maniac, and the rest of them deserved it too. So glad we lost to the best. I guess that's what I can say.
Yeah. That's funny. You guys always you both well, maybe not well technically Twig not season 1, but you guys always have lost to
Hmm.
the teams that have won the tournament. That's what you were telling me at this World Series. You're like, you got to win it now since you lost to us. So it's just funny that it works out like that. That's crazy to think about. All right, so we'll talk about season 3 and then we'll wrap it up because I feel like if we go through season 4 and season 5, it's gonna be like a 4-hour thing probably. So we'll go through season 3 because I feel like season 3 is a really good season for like all of us for the most part,
Hmm.
right?
I think
So
we
yeah,
interacted the most,
yeah,
like
we like that's where
intimate.
we had like the most interactions for sure, and like it was just a good season overall for both teams besides the beginning, I guess. And like there were some struggles for us as well, like later on in the season too, but like for the most part, it was just like a really good season overall.
Hmm.
So, so you were saying that you and Prime wanted to stick together and you wanted to play with Twig. Like, how did the rest of that team come together, basically, between you guys? Like, what do you guys remember, like, going into that season, basically? Like, the talks you were having with people. Like, were you talking to any other teams, Twig, or did, like, anybody else approach you? Or was, like, Nate the only team that really approached you?
I think Jermaine and Dardez uh on Myrmidons kind of, because I think my team Fnatic took Jiffy, like they tried him out and they wanted to pick him for their team, and he was their jungler. So Jermaine and Dardez offered me a spot, and it was definitely a good offer, since they were good players. I think their attitude was the problem at the time, or at least I guess Jermaine's at the time. Like I liked the guys; they were cool guys, but like
Mm-hmm.
I decided to go kind of with a safe option, and I also really wanted to play with Prime, since I just felt like he was the polar opposite of Zero's, like in terms of attitude, and like he was just very kind and chill, and he's not afraid to just go in and die with you, which is like, it's so important. I don't know, in mid and jungle, at least for me, is having a teammate that will just go in and die with you. And that's what I appreciated with Frezzy. It's what I appreciated with like Rafa. Like it's just something I really appreciate. It's someone that's just like, okay, screw it, I'm not going to think about this too much because it's a dumb idea, but I'm just going to go in and die with you, and let's see what happens. And sometimes it might work out, and sometimes it won't.
That's how you learn and get on the same page and like
Exactly.
create trust between each other. I feel like that's how you do it. You have to just like believe in what the other person's doing, even if you don't think it's the best. And if it doesn't work out, you're like, oh, whatever, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, so as I said, I'm just super happy that I went with Nate and Prime. In the end, it was a much better and safer decision for sure.
So what it came down to is what we were talking about before about having trust in everyone on the team. And to me, with Weapon with Titan, that was the issue. I feel like people stopped respecting each other as players. So I wanted to make sure that the team that we built for season 3 was a team where everyone had that healthy amount of respect. And that was the important basis of the team to get us going. So what we did was Prime and I started, and this was before, as soon as we lost, as soon as Twig went to Worlds, we said Twig is our number one choice, and that's who we want to start the team with. And we didn't think about anyone else. We didn't even talk about anyone else. It was kind of Twig first, and then we'd go from there. And I think Twig with Prime, and it worked out, was such a, you can kind of just see stuff. And I think that them two working well together was something that me and Prime were really, really excited for, and Twig apparently too. And that was important for us to get that synergy going, to build that trust between those two, because jungle and mid tend to be the most important roles when it comes to getting things going on the map. So that was really important. So once we brought Twig in, we then sat down and we had who did we picked Harry next, right? We had a look at solo laners, and we were like, all right, is anyone who we think that really fits together? And it was important for me, at least, that everyone agreed on the same person, and that went really well. I think Harry was pretty much the standout candidate for us, right?
He came off that huge LAN, right, when he played against Trix and Kivo's team at Super Regionals.
He played Jing Shen.
Yeah, didn't he have a really good set? I remember that.
They almost beat Paradigm. They were like one game
There
off.
was a dodgy fire call or something like that, and they could have won it, and he was popping off for Jing Shen. He was nuts, But yeah, so Harry was the choice, and then he went on board. And then we had an issue with support, which ended up being a bigger issue, I guess. But we had a division, and this is my fault. I think this is probably biggest mistake in Smite for me. But we were stuck on supports. Twig had suggested Badger, but wasn't utterly convincing about it. Harry had suggested Frezzy, but wasn't utterly convincing about it. And then I had suggested Zin, and Prime was on my side for it, but neither of us should have been. So Zin was the guy we made the original team with back then. He'd been on a break, and I was sure he'd changed, and he had, but he'd been through a lot, like on his own little Smite path. He'd been in and out of teams, and he'd developed a really terrible mentality for professional play, in that he was deathly afraid of criticism. And that came, like, scrims would go okay, but the second it was put to a real game, things just fell apart. I don't know. I can't really remember much about that bit. I don't know if you can, Twig, but we basically lost every game. And I think a lot of that comes down to there was very little faith. I think he was a terrible fit for the team just because his mentality wasn't there and he wasn't in the right mind to play at that point. But also, I don't think Harry had much faith in him. I don't know about you, Twig. I don't know if you had much faith in him. He was a bit of a talker, though, so he might have convinced you over. But
who? Zin.
Zin, yeah.
Yeah, I never had faith in him. I kind of trusted in you and Prime, and I think you guys persuaded better than I guess Harry and I persuaded like choices. But like Zin was he was never good enough at any point in Smite. Not that like maybe he could be, but like he just didn't tick the boxes for me, and it felt okay at the start, I guess, when he was playing a fair amount, but then I think he stopped playing too much Smite when he actually landed the spot on the team. Like I remember seeing that he played a lot of the game, and that's kind of what led me to be okay with picking him up. And then I think he stopped playing the game so much, and that just kind of ruined everything. Like any improvement that he was making, I think he stopped.
Yeah, I feel like one person could really just drag like an entire team down. For like people don't realize that, like, even if they're not bad at the game necessarily, like if they don't practice as much outside of the game. Like that's like the thing with Best like this season, like that like he was not really practicing outside of scrims, but she did like previously like in season 3, like this like the season we're talking about, like he would practice outside of scrims, like we queue ranked and do like all this stuff together, but like since he took that break and then he came back, like he wasn't really practicing as much, and like it kind of just brought the whole team morale down and stuff, and like people didn't want like it's just like it's like contagious. Like if people are playing, like you want to like play and do well and get better. Like if everybody in your team, so if there's one person in your team who's just like not playing as much, I feel like it's just bad morale for your team. That's what I think. So I could definitely see how that was not good for you guys at all. But so you guys ended up picking up Frezzy like after you were 1-7 or something, right? Were you guys 1-7, 1-8? You were like some ridiculously bad record. I remember.
Might be worse. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was so
1-11.
depressed because you know when you've been at the top of Smite for because at that point that was like 3 years that you start doing really well, you get a bit of a chip over your shoulder. You know, like I'm better than this. You know, you could never imagine yourself being at the worst team, and then you are at the worst team, which is a very humbling experience.
Yeah.
But no, we ended up replacing Zen. It was because of Harry. Harry can be quite immature with these things, but I'm really glad he was. But he was like, I'm leaving unless we kick Zen. He'd had enough, you know. And Harry says it in a lot more colorful language than that. But that's what he basically said, him or Zen. And I think everyone, it was definitely a problem. So we replaced him with Frezzy. And then the Frezzy effect, man. Oh, what a beast.
You guys just started
Yeah.
farming. That's all I remember.
I
Yeah, I don't
remember-
even know why we won with Frezzy. We just won with Frezzy, man.
I
I don't know what
remember we-
Frezzy does every game, but he does something. He dies a ton, and then we win the game.
He was such a perfect fit on a team. Like it,
Yeah.
I don't like. I feel like if we just had the same team in season 4, we'd have smacked season 4 just as hard as we did, you know, with the Millsy and whatever. But like, Frezzy just, I don't know what he brought. Like he wasn't good to practice with. He wasn't that good on paper. He didn't play that much Smite outside of. He didn't play much more than anyone else, you know. Like he did play the game, but not much. Like he was just a perfect fit. Like his personality probably wasn't, I guess, though it might have been actually. Maybe that was part of it. But like he was just perfect. He just die, which meant that I had the freedom as a jungler for the first time maybe, and since I started jungling competitively, to do what I wanted with Prime, and it was just perfect. Like it was the best thing that ever happened to us for sure. Like, and I'm glad that Variety kind of forced their hand there.
It was such a polar opposite from Zen as well, because Zen was afraid of dying because it would make him look bad. So trying to get Zen to die once was a challenge, and then trying to get Frezzy not to die 10 times in a game was a challenge as well, you know. But one of them won his games and one didn't. So, but we had both Frezzy and Harry who pretty much just would go in and W, which made for me, and I guess you and Prime as well, like it made it so much easier to play. Like that year for me, season 3 was the easiest I've ever had to play ADC. I guess ADCs were better because ADCs have probably been on a downward curve if you ask the Bias Hunter. But I feel like I could do so much. Like I feel like that year for me was the best I've had as a player. Like as an individual player, I think season 3 was my standout year. I think I did really well.
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes down to Frezzy. And having like Frezzy, Harry, and Spurg who can all go in and not be afraid of dying and would all start things off was, me and Prime could just do whatever we wanted. Like honestly, it was so easy. It's perfect.
So yeah, we also started out really bad. Did you? So I watched the USPL games. I followed it pretty well. Did you guys watch any of the NA SPL games really back then or no?
I've never really watched any SPL to be honest.
Really? That's funny.
I'm so bad at it.
I followed it for the most part. Yeah. I do remember it was Eager, right? Was that your team or?
Yeah, Eager. Yeah, I was an Eager at the beginning, and we barely beat Allegiance, which was like the Lazarus, Dare to Care. I don't know if the Incon team, that team. Yeah. I don't think they had Matty Pike. We barely beat them, and then we ended up losing like 3 or 4 sets in a row, and we were doing really bad too. And then Soar and Enemy were like the top of the bracket, and we ended up beating them in that week, and then did really well. But I remember going into DreamHack, like we were qualifying, and I remember like looking at you guys, and we thought you guys were gonna be like, you guys were really good. We thought you guys were gonna like be a really like good matchup for us basically. And like that cuz you came off of winning worlds obviously, so like I feel like your region was looked at like as a way better region than NA, like from the out from like NA looking at you, like you guys probably like what did you guys think of the NA teams? Did you guys think it was going to just be easy or what for the most part? Or well, obviously
Uh,
not you guys because you guys were coming off like a huge win streak and you turned it around, but like what did you guys think basically?
I think pretty poorly because I remember season 2 being really unimpressed with the region
Mhm.
because Enemy got to finals when they shouldn't have because Paradigm couldn't draft and then they were terrible in the finals. And I remember if that's the Barra's team did really well. They had like one of the best sets in Smite, right, against
Yeah.
Epsilon. But
But
that
Bear's
was
team didn't even make it to DreamHack, so that's what I'm saying.
yeah,
Like, yeah,
exactly, yeah. So there wasn't a lot of it was at a weird point at that point. So I don't think I didn't really expect to lose to you guys.
I
But we got smacked.
I personally rated you guys pretty high because I remember watching you guys, and the biggest like learning point for me, I try to make learning points from most teams, but like was that you ran really nice threes. You ran like Circuit, Scylla, Sobek, stuff like that, stuff that just works CC wise. You had a bunch of threes that you ran. That was not a particularly like exciting one, but like yeah, and I remember thinking like these threes make sense. Like this is good. Like this is better than a lot of the teams we play against, and this is something that maybe me, Prime, and Frezzy should do more. And I don't think we ever did, but like I remember personally rating you guys pretty high, and like I was pretty like I knew that you guys could definitely beat us. So like I didn't rate Pern very much, but I think he was a smart player and surprised me positively when we played against each other.
yeah.
You weren't
DJ,
that impressed mechanically at the time. I remember when we lost. Was
Oh,
it
he
you?
missed.
Someone was
Yeah,
very upset that we lost to Pern because he missed so. It was you and Prime. I think Prime was super pissed about it, but he missed so many Fenrir jumps in
yeah, he
that
missed a
set
lot of
against
Fenrir
us.
jumps. I remember that. But like
yeah.
apart from that, I just remember that you guys played a lot better than I expected, and even
Mm.
Pern did to some extent. Like he played correctly, I guess, like with the team at least.
Like
I
that.
think he played it really well. He just wasn't mechanically on point for some of it, which is fine because they still won. So
Yeah, that's what DJ's really good at, getting everybody on the same page. Like that's one thing that he did like really well that I feel like I learned a lot from. Cause like if you get everybody on the same page and get people to like do like a strategy, like you're gonna be a good team. Like and you just like something clicks like if once everybody gets on that same page basically. So he helped a lot with that. But yeah, I remember going into that set and we felt pretty confident. I remember we were like, yeah, we're just gonna play Fenrir this entire tournament. It was funny because we played it against you guys. I think both games, right? I'm pretty
mm.
sure we played against you guys both. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I think we
I think
did.
you did.
Yeah, and the Devios and DJ invaded you guys. Both you were Alquang, Twig. Remember that? And they just invaded you
Yep.
guys back to back basically. And then we basically just snowballed it off of that. I feel like the wins for the most part, and we just kept like pressuring you guys. But that was the first time that I played against you guys, and I guess that's the first time I kind of like talked to you probably at that event a little bit, Twig. I think. I guess we didn't really talk
Yep.
that much, but I think
Probably.
we had some conversations, and then the split after that. How did you guys do? We did really bad because DJ was studying for his MCAT, which is like a big medical school like test, like it's an entry test to get in. So he was doing a lot of studying. So he was only scrimming and not really playing Smite at the time, like outside of scrims, because he was like super busy studying that. So we were like fifth seed going into that group stage.
Yeah,
Like
there was no summer split, right? It just went straight into full split.
yeah,
Yeah.
went straight into fall split, and then there was that group land, and then super regionals. It was
Mm.
like really, it was interesting the way they did it, basically.
I think we did fine. We did we end third place or something, or fourth?
Yeah,
Like
I
we
think so.
did.
We weren't, but we were behind. Who came? It was what were they
It
called at
was
the
like,
time?
was it
Cell's team.
Paradigm?
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever they were called. Optic. They were
Orbit.
first.
Orbit,
Orbit.
yeah,
Orbit.
Orbit,
Yeah.
yeah.
Orbit were first, I think.
Yeah,
And
yeah, they were
then
pretty good. Yeah.
Epsilon Energy, or whatever they were at the
Yeah,
time, was
Energy.
second, and I think we were third or fourth. We might have even been fourth.
Yeah,
Did
maybe.
Fringe Crew have a good run? Because they
Fringe
they
Crew had
played
a
really
pretty
well at
good.
the
That
LAN,
was
so they
Zeros
might
and
have taken
Milzy,
third.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah, zero
solo.
solo. That's right. I don't think it. Oh
That
yeah, we
just
did.
sounds funny.
Yeah. I think we did have a rougher time than I remember, but
Yeah,
like,
it wasn't it wasn't the first split, but it wasn't
yeah,
amazing anyway.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think we were viewed as a top team,
Yeah. So whose
but it
group were
just
you
felt much
guys
better.
in? Then do you remember the group you were in or no?
Ooh,
For the
we
because
had
that's how you qualified the regionals. I'm pretty sure.
I think we had Epsilon and
Mm.
Cringe Crew and someone else. Who did we have? Was it
we had
Cyclone?
we had
No.
Cyclone because they were super
Oh,
important. We dropped the game and they ended up helping us out a lot by beating
Oh yeah. It
Cringe
was
Crew.
Cyclone, Cringe Crew, and Epsilon.
so
And
did you
Epsilon
guys
just steamed through it, but
barely make it to what's it called then? Regionals off of
that's
that
right.
event. You guys were really
It was
close.
close. I don't think
Yeah.
it was ever out of
Yeah.
our hands, but it
Mhm.
was a bit nervous at one point. I think we
Yeah.
had to go to a tiebreaker, but then Cyclone beat Cringe Crew, which ended up securing us that spot.
Yeah, because I remember like personally after we beat you guys, I thought you guys were good, but I didn't think you were like a top team either at that point.
Mm.
So I
No.
remember because we had so then going to super regionals, like we had that strategy that was like the invade strategy with Hog, and I still feel like to this day, if Worlds was the same format as it was this year, when it, like where there was no big break in between, like we would have done really well at Worlds too, because
Yeah, you
people
guys
would have
dominated that Super Regions, right?
yeah, people would have not been able to be prepared for like that strategy or whatever. I remember. So yeah, we did really well, and we felt like we were the best team like at the time and during super regionals just because of that strategy that we had basically, and we felt like that,
Mm.
like going to worlds like we were the team to beat, and you guys beat Orbit right in the first round
Yeah,
at
with
super
a
regionals.
second round of terrible draft. They got to be like, I love those boys, but I think that that team's history of drafting until Dig was,
Terrible.
I don't know whether it's Zeros or Biggie, but they've had the worst draft in Smite, I think, over the years. They've had some really, really rough ones. But they were picking Izanami mid, and this was when she was super shit. Like, dash takes 10 seconds, it's like 20-second
Yeah.
cooldown, and it takes 3 seconds to go. So Lobster was playing that and Poseidon, I think. And I remember literally, like, I feel kind of bad, but I laughed when they kept picking it. I was like, why are they doing this? Because we were really, like, or at least I was super nervous going into them because they were, them and Energy were the best teams, and they were the best teams. But I don't know what it was with that draft, but I
Did you
feel
guys
like
sweep them
they missed the mark on the meta.
or did they get a couple games? I'm trying to remember. Was it a
They got
three?
one game, right?
Was it a best of three or best? It was best of five for sure, actually. So it
Best
was
of
a
five, and
3-1.
I think it was 3-1 to us. I'm pretty sure it was a 3-1 to us.
I think so.
I
It
think they
was
won a
it was
game
a
with
good
Poseidon.
draft. Yeah, like I think Zalia played Guan most games, and if he didn't, Trix
One first
did.
pick. Yeah.
And it was like I don't know. It was really it was a strangely easy set for us
Mm.
since they were first seed. Like for all intents and purposes, they were like rated as the best European team, even though I guess everyone knew Energy at the time were really good.
Yeah, they were very good. So it was definitely, you got high expectations for a set and it kind of falls flat. That was for me. I think that was that one sticks in my mind.
So
So I think they were a lot better than they played there. Sorry, go on.
No, I keep interrupting you because I'm so bad. But anyways, you guys played Energy in the finals, right? Then?
Mm.
Yeah. So what was that set like for you guys? Did you guys think that you guys had a good chance of going into that set and beating them, or what were you guys feeling going into that set? Because they obviously had that hot year, like they were just winning everything, and everybody was saying they were like on like some decline too for some reason. That I don't. There was like the storyline. It was really weird, even though they won like every LAN. I don't understand why people were saying that. But what were you guys like feelings going into that set?
You
That
wanna?
was for me. I just want to say one thing and then I'll pass it to Twig. But that was for me, that was the worst set, like least enjoyable set I've ever had in Smite. Never. And Twig can tell you more.
Well, I wasn't actually gonna go on that line, but I was gonna say, did you
We
want
don't
to
have to.
talk about assets with you, Aror, in the semis? Because that was
No, this is still at regionals, right? Or are you talking about worlds now? We're
No, I'm
different things.
I'm talking about regionals still, because you guys
oh
played.
right.
Yeah,
regionals.
yeah.
Okay. Oh, head now. Set.
Oh, you're cutting out a bit.
You're cutting out.
Oh, am I?
You're good now, I think.
It's when you turned your head.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. Nate, you can carry it. Sorry, I thought we were talking about worlds. So
No,
I'm not gonna.
we're gonna go to Worlds next. But yeah,
Yeah.
Nate said it was just a
Nate,
terrible
Nate,
set.
go ahead. If I remember it was bad, but you go ahead, Nate, if you've got anything to say, because
It was it was really memorable, and I think this moment is probably why, despite having such a really good run at Worlds later on, why we eventually split. Because I don't think a lot of teams expected us to split or make changes after season 3 Worlds.
Yeah.
But neither did I really. But at this point, this is probably a big part of it. Is we hadn't beaten Energy in a set, like even in the regular season and stuff. We'd never really played them. Oh, we played them a lot, but we had never beaten them, I don't think. And we lost them in the group stages as well. And they're not terrible losses, but it's one of those things that you're playing but you're losing. And then in this one, the kind of situation where there's nothing to lose because both teams are qualified for Worlds and it's just playing for seeding. I don't even know if it was for money at that point, but we lost game 1 and then we came to game 2. And I've got a real soft spot to a fault maybe for Harry. And Harry is a tremendous LAN player. He could be a bit of a shitty teammate when it comes to scrims because he's doesn't try as hard, and when something goes wrong he'll talk off the fun and stuff. But at LAN, before that day and after that day, he's always been the idyllic LAN player for me. Like he's in it to win it. He'll do whatever it takes. He'll die as many times. He'll carry. He'll do. He's so focused and so good for it that I don't think there's many LAN players you could say are as good, if not better than him. So he's really good at that. But I don't know what it was. I think Twig did do something stupid. I think in hindsight it was pretty bad. But even if you do something silly, you don't bring it up in game. But he snapped and he just had a go at Twig in the middle of the game. And it was one of those things when sometimes in scrims things get bad. You're like, all right, guys, shut up, focus on the game. We'll talk about it afterwards. And you put on the captain voice, and everyone shut up. We'll deal with it after. And that happens to every team. But it's never happened to me in a LAN before, and that was the only time it's happened. And Harry just did it. And I guess it was maybe because there wasn't much on the line. But since then, I think he got it in his head that we would never ever beat Energy, and that the team was, while we were a really good team, if we can't beat Energy, then what's the point?
Yeah, that's yeah. That does happen to every team. Like for me, I'm trying to think if that's ever really happened in SPL. I guess it hasn't really ever happened in SPL or at LAN for me either. But in scrims all the time for sure. On like all the teams I've been on. But yeah. So going into Worlds, what did you guys think about Worlds? Like, did you guys, since you guys didn't have the greatest set, were you guys like pretty confident still after that, or what were you guys like thinking basically going into that event? Because you guys were you guys scrimming Energy, and wasn't Cyclone scrimming too or something, and they created like the Boots 3 or something? That's what I heard.
No, we just scrim partnered Energy, right? And we did it. I remember going in being so confident because of you, Aror, and the meta that you created. Which you showed off in your Super Regionals Dominated. We basically scrim at that to the next level in my mind, because it was just the two of us, and I don't really like scrim partners, but in that situation it got so bad. Those scrims are so bad, to the point where Twig did some really cool stuff in the set against him at the finals, but it was because of you.
Cyclone did play, like, I remember we played them like once or twice, like sometimes, like over the maybe month that we scrimmed before Worlds, like we played them like it must have been 4 or 5 times at least, because they just played the game. I think that's what like made them into rival that they are like today or last year or season 4, is that they just played a lot of the game. That's just how it worked, and they scrimmed even when they didn't have to, since they were out of Worlds contention. But I remember like Ice would build like 5 starter items and stuff like that. Like they didn't play the meta properly, but they definitely were like, they had really good ideas. But like the majority of what we learned was just playing against Energy non-stop, like sometimes, like most of the time, twice a day, and like just horrible like aid scrims that was just
it was such a bad meta, dude.
Getting past like 1 minute time like elapsed. Like there's the 1 minute before the sometimes we'd like F6 before like 0-0, but then getting to 1 minute was like a chore, man. Like it was but the things that we learned like was so insane, like and stuff that I'll never forget. Like my synergy with Harry got so good. Like I swear, like if like we had such amazing synergy as a solo jungle, like after that month, Like we were so confident going into Worlds not in an over, like we'd lost like half the scrims, maybe more or less, but like I felt like that was the perfect lead up to Worlds, since we really like we saw the meta you guys did against Saw in the finals, and like how far ahead of everyone you guys were, and I felt like we kind of just learnt from that and like took it maybe not to the next level, but like to a one path that you could that would
No, I
lead
think you
from
guys
there.
took it to the next level. Like you had to. I feel like at that event, like everybody, the meta became ridiculous off of that. I feel like it definitely was a level above super regionals. Like, 'cause if any worlds team played like our super regionals team, like I feel like we probably would have not. We would have done okay maybe, but it was definitely like a whole nother level for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say.
Those
But
scrims are so bad though,
oh
man.
my
Turn up to
God.
duel, and me and Emma, we'd play like it was all magical characters and Jingwei, and we just I don't even know what we were doing anymore. But it was like the minions have spawned F6 guys, so like 2 people have died in solo. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake, you
And
know.
that was
start
because
again.
that's then the hunter was a solo laner. That was like the solo lane role. You weren't even really a hunter because the support
was
would
so
start
much fun.
mid and the jungler would start in solo lane. So the hunters would be the real solo laners, and you guys just walk up, clear your wave, and be like, "Oh, the game's over." We're just yeah. That was like the funniest thing ever with hunters. Like they're like, we don't even get to do anything. I remember Zap's like, I don't even do anything. You guys just play and we lose or we win. I just sit here.
Me and Emma used to just whisper each other all the time. We just started fighting instead, you know, just like soloing each other because it didn't matter at all. It was, that was the most I've enjoyed dual lane as a lane, probably because it was solo lane. But that's the most fun I've had, even though the scrims were terrible. Like playing that lane was so much fun from a hunter position.
Oh man,
It's
yeah,
really good.
you guys got so much farm because you were alone the entire game.
Yeah, we start full boots with like hard carry characters like Freya, Kronos, and Jing, and then you've got just the entire lane all by yourself,
you were level
all the
20
stuff
and
to
everybody else
farm.
was like
Yeah,
level 14.
it was so good, man. I loved it.
Oh man. Yeah, so alright, so we'll talk about our set then. So I thought personally, like looking at the bracket, I thought we were gonna end up playing against ALG, and this is obviously based off of super regionals because we don't know how scrims were going and stuff. But just my mind based off super regionals, I felt like we'd end up playing against ALG in the semis, but they ended up losing to LATAM, and then they were on energy side of the bracket, and you guys ended up playing OCE. So then once that happened, we were like, okay, yeah, we're definitely playing you guys for sure, basically. So, and I remember Nike got released then, and we didn't think she was that good, but I feel like you guys kind of figured that out, that Nike was like really good.
Broken.
Yeah. Her
No one
passive
liked
was
her except us,
insane.
right? It was just us who played
Her
her. She was so
ult was
busted.
insane. Yeah, Twig played a jungle, and it was just insanity, I remember.
Oh, do you remember the game? I think it was against LATAM. Well, we started. It might have been our first game of the tournament, or it was against LATAM, our second one. But we played that, and Twig had died like twice before the game had even started. Do you remember watching that from a spectator point of view? Oh, it was awful. I can't remember how you died the first time. Was it like just a gank in the jungle?
Okay. It was a straight. No, it wasn't a gank. Like we did the straight up invade on speed, like me, Frezzy, and Harry, I think. And like we lost, like straight up. Like we just got out 3v3'd. I died. I think I spawned, ran to my speed, where they, after winning the fight, getting their own speed and running to my speed, died again. I think I stole it, but I died. Or Variety stole it, and then I died. And then I respawned, went back to solo lane to acquire farm, right? And then my like PC like completely went bust, and then I apparently walked into a tower and died again. Oh no, I walked into minions and died to the minions. And like that, and like we had to pause and everything, and like they had to wheel in a new PC entirely for me. Like because it just broke down. Like it was so like I was playing Nike, so I was still like 100% certain that we would win the game still. And like to me, that's when you know a character's broken. Like I was 1, and like I think the Thana jungle was like 4 or something, or I forget who I was against, but the other jungler was like 4 or 3, and I don't know. Like I just respawned, farmed, and like I don't think it was a particularly good game for me after that either. But like
your passive was
that
good,
was just
though.
such a funny. Yeah, my passive was broken.
Oh man. Yeah, so it's just funny because I thought that we'd have a good chance again, and then they just lost, and then they ended up playing against Energy, and they did okay against Energy, but then, so the one thing I want to talk about that about our set that all the other teams did besides you guys, which I feel like made you guys really good, is that you were the one buying the hog instead of the solo laner, and Harry was getting TP variety, and um I put Variety like super far ahead, and then like early Gold Furies, you were always there with the Hog basically. So I thought like that was like like that was the next level. I feel like that you took the strategy to like that's what I mean. Like if we did that, I feel like we would have been a lot better. Like if DJ went Hog and Divios had the TP, like. But the thing is like if you're a Hog jungle, you can just get CC'd basically. It was like playing like back in like season 2, season 1 again, where you don't have beads right away, because like you had to buy them, so or you had to wait till you were level 12.
I remember like it was definitely like rough, you know. You sometimes you just die, like there was nothing to do without beads. But like I remember Raven, because I remember picking him a few times in scrims and nobody ever played him. His ult was like awful. It like tethered you to someone, like it marked someone, and they still did 100% of the damage to you. But you got mitigation against everyone else, I think, that you like didn't hit with your ult. It was the weirdest ult ever, and he was just a bad like character, right? But like I remember playing him because he was one of the few characters you can play that don't really need beads, since he had his 2 and his ult to get away from bad spots. And I just remember like trying him out, and like he was just not good enough at the time. He just wasn't a jungle character, but I think he became a jungle character in season 4. But like I remember that was the hardest thing, is that you just didn't get beads, and so some games were just awful for you, and you just got farmed horribly.
Yeah, so game 1, we had that. You remember the start that we did where we proxied in between the towers?
The Anubis.
Yeah.
Prime was like, I don't even. Prime couldn't put it into words. Like, I was so confused as to what was going on. I think he did. He did okay against it, right? He almost got a kill, or was that another game? That
I don't remember. We ended up. So what we were supposed to do was proxy. I think we got the red, and then we proxy the wave, and then we would do back camps. We forgot to do the back camps, so we were down in XP a little bit. We messed it up, but it was fine. It went really well because then DJ ended up ganking you, and they got first blood. He was Kabrak, and I think you were Freya in the first game, right? Yeah, or Jing.
Right, yeah.
You were Jing or Freya, basically, and they got first blood, and we had like a pretty sizable lead, I feel like. And the turning point of the game, it's my fault why we lost game 1, and I feel like I gave you guys complete momentum of that set. Was you walked in to check our speed buff twig? You were Nike, and I was playing Erlang, and so in my mind, I overthought it really hard. So I knew your ult makes you go CC immune, and this is just me not being used to playing against the character as well, I guess you can, because Nike just came out like that season or whatever. So I was I was hesitant to taunt you because I thought you were gonna ult my ult basically and CC immune it, and then just like have that shield and we wouldn't kill you, because like our comp was like Erlang Anubis, because like I taunt into knock up into Anubis ult damage. It was a one shot guaranteed, like on somebody, especially since you didn't have beads, you had Hog, so it would have one shot you. But I ended up not taunting you. I tried to knock you up around the corner because you can't really predict the knock up, because the ult is like, you know how Erlang ult is, like it takes some time to go off. So in my brain, I just overthought it, and I tried to knock you up, and then you ended up I missed you, or I forget what happened. I don't know if you jumped or ulted or whatever, and I ended up not knocking you up, and then you guys just ran that team fight. Like Prime was Poseidon, and he had like a really good Kraken, and you guys just wrecked us there, and you got a huge lead off that, and it basically just snowballed the game, I remember. What do you guys remember from game 1? Anything sticking out? I also remember
oh, go on.
I also remember Zap having that one really crazy play too, but that's when we were already out of the game, I feel like.
Was that the Ulla between the towers and stuff?
Yeah, that's when you guys like trolled it and like ran in, like when you were all like with no ults and stuff.
It was a questionable situation.
But go ahead, sorry.
No, I was gonna say, I remember me and Hazer in particular were deathly sick. I've never been that sick in my life during that LAN, and it was the worst during that bit. But I remember the proxy shenanigans with Anubis, and I remember Zap's thing with a tower. But outside of that, I really don't remember much about the sets, to the point where it was some point last year. Not last year. It was when I was doing. Do you know when Spiff did that documentary?
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
when
I
he
think
did that,
it was like
and we
yeah.
were talking about this set, and I was talking about it as if it was a 3-1, but it wasn't. It was a 3-2. I've forgotten it. Like it's all gone. I honestly I don't know. You could tell me stuff about it, but like, wow, did that happen? I'd have to go back and watch it because I don't know. We were so sick. It was like because everyone did the team meetings in the hotel rooms, and it was the
Mhm.
one where we were in, and it was so stuffy, and there was
Yeah,
no
we were sick
ventilation.
too.
It
I
was
was bad. Yeah,
awful. I've never been so sick in my life. Like it was the worst.
we were
And
pretty
I
bad
forgot
sick.
we had an extra game. I thought it was a 3-1.
For me though, like me being sick at that event wasn't bad. It was just like the preparation was bad for us. But like playing, like it didn't really affect me. But yeah, I think me, Best, and Divios were sick. I was the sickest though when we played against China, which was like the day before or whatever. So,
Hmm.
do you remember anything about that? The first couple games or no? Because I think game 2 you guys stomped us. I'm pretty sure. Pretty
Yeah,
bad.
I remember after the first two games, I thought like we'd win it in three, but like,
You guys had a huge lead, remember, in the third game too, and we came back. So the one thing I remember about that third game is that we came back and then we started winning. Like you were up by like 8K and we somehow came back and
yeah,
like got the game back under control. And then we like broke it down to like a 2K. Like you guys were still up by 2K. And then we pulled Fire Giant and then we messed it up and you guys stole it. And then um I remember I watched that game back I think like a couple times. I remember everybody thought it was just over after you guys stole that fire, but we somehow ended up pulling it back, and then we won by ending the game I think with like Anubis. Like Best had that really good Anubis ult over speed buff wall where you like lasered two people down. I remember. Um, and then game 4, what I remember is that that was the best Guan Yu game I ever played. I remember because Frezzy was Odin. And I remember I sat so far back, like I sat behind like the tower in mid because I knew you guys just wanted to cage me like off cooldown. But I played like super far back and never let you guys like go on me basically. And then that game went really well. And then game 5, you guys just picked the Zeus Fenrir and wrecked us so hard.
Oh,
I
oh
Twig
yeah,
remember.
Fenrir game,
Oh
right?
my god.
So we got that super good Fenrir game.
Yeah, you guys just completely demolished us. It was so bad.
I remember that it was like the
I
perfect pick because I didn't practice it that much, but like
Mm.
I think we had Zeus for the Fenrir role, and like it was like Rat and Ymir, right?
I was
Ymir
Ymir.
support,
Oh my god, dude. Oh
and
my
there's
god, why did I pick Ymir? I don't even want to
it's
think
like
about
Ymir
that.
can't
Oh,
do anything, man.
oh
Like
my
if
god, it
you
was so
look at an
bad.
Ymir and jump, like he has to pre-ult, and even that's bad. Like just bad. Like, and I just remember like it was like the perfect pick, and everything went like. I don't even think I played that well. I think people were just more hyped because like it was the fifth game of a 6 set, and like it was such a hype moment because it was semifinals. It was really important. But like I didn't play that well, honestly, looking back. But like I played well enough for sure. But like it was just a perfect pick, I think, for the game. And like that was that was the game I remember the best. I do remember a lot of the Nike game and the amount of times I was scared he would combo me with Erlang for
And I
sure.
never did it because I was afraid that you were gonna ult
Yeah,
it. So it's
I
just
was
like
really
it was
scared
so
of that.
bad by
It was like
me.
you and DJ. I was scared that you and DJ would somehow like combo your like CC so that I could never get away.
Yeah, we just played it. I remember just playing it like it's just if I was more familiar with how Nike worked like I am now, obviously, like I feel like I would have been able to like realize that if we're on a quarter, it's really hard to Nike ult like a taunt because the Nike ult is also like a cast time a little bit. It doesn't go off
Yeah.
instantly, so like that's just me not being familiar. Like I thought you were just instantly CC immune, and that's like the thing that like sticks in my mind basically. So going into the energy set, what I thought after playing you guys is I thought you guys had like the better strategy because you had variety with TP and you were the one with Hog. So what happened with that set? Wasn't the first game like insane? Like some were like
Game was
backdoor.
nuts.
Yeah. What happened with that game? Who wants to talk about it? Well, like,
Well,
how did it get to that point?
I'll say what I remember. I
Okay.
think Variety had a great start. I think he had a great game every game. Like
He had an
every
amazing
single game of
finals.
the
It was like
finals he played.
insane. Yeah, I remember
Like,
that.
and sure that was partly to do with the teleport thing, but like obviously he
Mhm.
played individually like really well too, and that's like most of it, I'd say. But like obviously,
Well, yeah, obviously.
his job was to, with the lead and the active that he got, to get as far as ahead as he could, and then like bring it back in the mid game, since like I'd probably be doing worse with my hog. But like I remember I died like 6 times in a row. I was like 0-6 with Dana. I remember that because like I've got memed a little bit, like just from people randomly, like, oh, rough Dana game, eh? And stuff like that. But it's like, dude, the comeback I had in that game, like from going 0-6 down, I think I ended the game 7-6 or something.
Didn't you have a
And like,
double execute or something that was like
yeah. The
ridiculous?
Oh no,
variety
fearless.
Variety got a double fearless, and I had a double execute. I could just tell Variety, because Variety kind of like he is perfect to land, like Nate said, like exactly what you want like from a player. But you can tell, I could tell from the way he like talked and the way he was on comms that he was gonna get something good. So like I was already ready to ult by the time he even got in position to double fearless. I was ready for it, and like that was just such a hype moment. And I'd say that was probably my favorite game like of all time, even though we lost it in the end. It was just such a like, that's all I remember is the sick double execute, the comeback for me at least. Variety just playing out of his mind on tier. Yeah, like that. That's all I remember from that game.
For me, it was we. I think we were off to a really good start in that game. I think we had good starts in a lot of them, except for game two. But in game one, we had a really good start. Twig was playing Thana, and I think Twig was doing really well on Thana, except for when it came to team fights. I think this happened maybe 2 or 3 times, but he would miss a critical execute.
Yeah.
That's
Remember
just the
that?
story of Thanatos. So like we were talking about last week.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, but last week we were talking about Zap was saying season 4 when they played against Cherio's team. What was it? Elevate, I think. The homie missed one execute, and if he hit that execute, it might have swung the whole set.
Mm.
But like that's the whole thing with Thanatos. Like you live and die by his like scythe and his execute. Like he's such a character that his abilities are so hard to hit.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure you were hitting like all your sites, and it was just like I remember there was 1 or 2 at the goal free where they would just miss executes, and there would have been one fights if you hit them. But as I said, the
100%.
comeback is I think it's ridiculous that people meme me for that game because while the executes were, they shouldn't have been missed. You did so well for the rest of the game, and to come back from that is even better. Like to have because that could tilt people because there are things that you should hit right, and then to miss them is
Just
something that can set people off. But that doesn't. That's one of the things I've always loved about you as a player is you can't tilt you. You'll always just come back and do it regardless of what your slash line is. And that was such a good game. Like you and Harry, the synergy that you guys had during that was so good.
Yeah, like that
Really,
was
really
definitely
good
my
set.
favorite like game at LAN of all time. Like any win or loss that I've had, like doesn't beat that. Like that was just like the perfect game you want for a Worlds finals, I think.
It was so nuts as well because there was no NA team in it, so the crowd was like equally hyped for both teams.
Yeah, the crowd just wanted to see good Smite at that
Hmm.
point, which was awesome. It was definitely better than like fighting against a crowd, I guess. And
Yeah.
like it was just, they just wanted to see good Smite, and I guess in some way I think most of the crowd wanted to see like a new team win rather than Energy win again. Like, but I don't know. I think the crowd was generally just cheering on every single like hype thing that happened, which was just like it gave, I think, everyone like loads of energy. And
Was
I
it
think it helped everyone.
was it that set where the crowd did the obey chant, or was it
Yeah,
against?
it was.
It was, yeah.
Was that set?
That was so. Like outside of a game, I think we just lost game. No, we won game 3, right? And that's when they did it.
Yeah, because
Or we lost game 2.
we lost game 1 and 2, and then
Hmm.
I forget when they did the chant, whether it was before game 3 or after game. I think it was after game 3.
I think it was, yeah.
We won
That
the
was
game, and
so
that was,
awesome.
we had to win that. I
Mhm.
just remember I was playing Merc. You had a sick play at Gold Fury with Soul, right, Nate?
Yeah, me and Harry, Sol and Rat, we did like this cool back to
Oh,
back like
yeah.
moment, like it was
That
like in a
was
movie or
sick.
something. It's like
Yeah,
1
yeah.
HP for the entire fight using the one to heal. That was really cool.
Dude, that finals was amazing, by the way. Like, I was so
Mm.
mad, obviously, that my team didn't qualify, but like the the pentakill, or was it a quadra-kill or whatever that Harry had too, variety, that was insane too
Yeah.
as well. There was so many things in that set that were just ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was such a good world to be fair, because both semi-finals were best of 5s, right? Like they were
They both,
really awesome.
it was both NA versus
Semi-finals.
EU too as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, Energy had a really close game again. LG, right?
Yeah,
Mm.
it was
Yeah,
really
that
really
was it.
close.
That was pretty hype.
But it's just crazy to think. So there's one. Let's talk about one more thing. Let's talk about the land that you guys won, and then we'll just close it from there. Because the first land you guys, we'll just go straight into that. You guys picked up Emilzy, right? Like right after
Mm.
Worlds, basically. And then, how did you guys have a really good split season 4 or no? The first split, I can't remember how good of a split you guys had or not. I thought it was
I
pretty
think we
good. You were like
I think
second
we
or
won
third,
every
right?
split but one, I think, in season 4, right?
Oh,
We won the
Oh
first split,
yeah,
I'm pretty
we
sure.
we had an amazing split.
yeah.
Like
Mm.
Milsey was like, I don't know, Milsey and Nate were like insane, like dual lane together. I think like there's no like doubting that they were like probably like the best dual lane by like a long way, like throughout season 4. Like and like who was Maniac fit on the team remarkably well after how much love like Variety got, and everyone was saying, well, after he left, like oh no, like what a huge
Yeah,
loss,
I
like
remember that. I was like,
Mm.
I
like
was like surprised
Maniac
that you guys were doing
fit,
so well after that, all the changes and stuff.
and he'd taken an over a year break, like and for him to come back and just be as good as he was, I just felt like that was
I
just
remember you selling
really
Maniac
great.
to us, and it was so Harry had left. We were quite sad, I guess, because we were looking at who to get for solo owners, and there wasn't really a lot of good options at that point. And then you started saying Maniac, and like, oh, but he's been on a year break. It's like, yeah, but he's been playing a lot of the game recently, and he's coming back to it. I was like, well, I haven't really seen him online. So yeah, he's been on the Spur, I promise. Not been playing at all. That was just a lie, but he's still fitting amazingly, and it was yeah, Maniac fit like it was perfect, just really good
That's
fit.
sick. Yeah, so you guys did really well, and then you guys you guys played Energy pretty early, right? In that LAN, you guys played
First
them.
round.
That you lost the first game, I remember, right? And then won on the
Mm.
second two. And I remember how I remember I was talking to you guys there a lot because that's when we became like closer because all the events and stuff I guess went by and like we played each other in the past and everything. But I remember you guys were so hyped after you beat them because that was like your first time beating them. It must have felt really good, right?
Yeah, it was awesome. That was such a weird set because it
Yeah.
was a best of 3.
Uh
I
huh.
think they'd played Oceania just before,
And they
and they'd
lost
almost
one game.
lost.
Yeah. Oh, they
Yeah, they
almost
almost lost the
lost.
set.
Yeah.
I think they
Oh.
should have lost like both games, but they managed to win.
Uh huh.
And it was like that's the best Oceania's ever done at Smite.
Yeah.
No BM, but that was like they
No,
almost
it
beat
was for
two-time
sure.
world champions after a world champion, and they should have won the set. You ask Energy themselves, I'm sure they'll say that. Um, but it was a weird set because game 1 we were winning, we were stomping them, and then we lost. And
Did,
then game 2 they were stomping us, but then we won. It was really weird. I don't know if maybe I'm recalling that incorrectly, but I'm pretty
no,
sure the team that was winning ended up losing every game.
I think that was right. Didn't you and Prime do the Nox combo thing in mid where you one shot
Yeah,
somebody? That was
Circuit
that set,
Nox.
right? Yeah, that
It
was
was at the back
level,
counter, right?
insane. I remember watching that. I was like,
one.
oh my god, that was like the craziest thing
Yeah,
ever.
level one, the mid 2v2. You'd start in mid for whatever reason, I don't remember, but like the 2v2 was so important, I remember, and it was something that me and Prime were like obviously pretty good at, I think, but like I don't think we've ever had like, well, we've definitely had that kind of synergy before again, but like I just knew like, oh, I need to one this Poseidon right now, get behind him, and then Prime, like, I don't remember if he said I can get my 3. I think he did. He said I can get my
It
3.
wasn't
Like,
planned.
we
You
just
guys
went
did
for
that
it.
off the like
I
just
think he
in the
said I
game. It
can
was
get
like
my
in the
3.
moment. That's even crazier. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
well, it's like not many mids that can get away, so we knew, like, I think we'd fought a mid Nox 2v2 before, but like we knew that's the only way you can win a 2v2 with Nox, like, ever. Like you have to double dash through them. But like that was such a hype moment, and I think we lost that game, but like I just remember thinking like, "Oh, let's go, dude. We need to beat Energy now. Like this is it. This is the time to beat Energy, like after all these years of losing to this team." Like so yeah, it was a really nice start, I felt like.
That's
So I
sick.
just got to be back 1 minute. I'll be back in like 30 seconds, 1 minute.
All right, no problem.
But yeah, I mean, the Energy set was like I remember game 2 they threw super hard after winning game 1, and I was starting to feel real depressed because it was just another loss to like
You're gonna be like,
this team again, and it had
oh,
been such a roadblock, and it was like Variety had left our team, and it was like he didn't try to like he's not a like hugely, he's not a man of many words, so like he didn't say much when he left, but like he said, but it felt like a huge roadblock for us was energy. We'd never really beat them ever. Like it was almost like it was a mental thing that we just couldn't beat them. So it just felt amazing to finally in game two we came back. I think off a nice, well, basically them throwing over chasing and stuff. And then I felt like game three was a super hard stomp. I think like it was like super quick, like 19-1 or something scoreline.
Yeah, I remember the third game just being over like instantly, basically. Like it was
Yeah,
really quick stomp. But yeah,
maybe they were mentally out of it or something.
dude, we were so bad at that LAN. I don't even. That was the worst LAN I've probably ever been at. You remember how bad we did against? We lost the game to Brazil. Remember? And we
Oh
barely
yeah,
beat
yeah, yeah.
Brazil. Cause like I played like Nike and I never played Nike ever. Like even like in normals outside of scrims. Like I was just like I'll just play Nike so we don't show anything. Like that was like that was a big learning point for me. Like you can't do that. You gotta like be trying super hard like all the time,
Yeah.
like you said. Like
You-
you don't want to ever put yourself in a position where you're on a character that you have no clue how to play, and you're in
Mhm.
like a LAN game that definitely matters. Like you definitely have to respect every team, and like we didn't give them the respect that they deserved basically, and like we looked really bad, and I feel like that loss definitely killed our morale. And then obviously like the famous Guan jungle out of that LAN too from us was really
Oh
funny.
yeah.
Yeah. So we
Yeah, I
just did
remember that.
terrible. Oh man.
I came in with such high hopes of you guys and like your ability to beat I think it was like Cuvo and Trix's team at the time.
Yeah, it was Variety's team, his new team,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
that was like Dig basically,
Yeah, it
or
was
what
Dig.
turned out to be Dig eventually.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, they got to the finals that one. They were a really rough start. I actually thought you guys might be able to beat them. Like after the semis, we played against you guys. After like watching you guys all split and knowing like how you guys like come to lands with plans and stuff like that, which like was definitely like a huge thing for me. I just felt like you have to come to lands with a plan of like what you're gonna do.
Yeah, 100%. That's the thing. Like, if you don't come to a land with like a certain idea that's different than what you were doing the rest of the split, like you're just like teams are gonna know what you do and they're gonna be able to prepare and they're just gonna be able to beat you easily, basically. Like you have to come up with something. I feel like. But yeah, so
Mhm.
talk about the finals. Like, was that set? Like from what you remember, was it hard? Did you guys
Can
expect to do
we
as well as you did, or what?
can we talk about the Guan Yu? Just because I've not actually heard the explanation for it.
Oh, sure,
About
yeah.
why you guys love the Guan Yu so much, because we didn't. Oh, I didn't understand it at the time,
Okay, so
and I haven't heard anything about it since.
So basically, the comp that we ran in scrims a lot, like, was Divios would play Fenrir, Best would play Nuwa, and then I play Kepri and DJ would play Guan Yu, basically. And that was like the comp, and then Zap would play like whatever hunter. And against LG, which was like that's when they got Baskin, and we were scrimming against them, and every time we got that comp, we beat them really, really bad. Like every game, no matter what, like we would just destroy them because like Guan Kepri, like you just like healing's good with Kepri. I feel like because even if you don't revive the person with Kepri, like you can heal them up as well because they're not gonna if they're not trying to kill the person, they either die and they get Kepri ulted or they live through the Guan heals because they're not focusing the person anymore because they're Kepri ulted or
Hmm.
whatever. So like it felt really good and like our main like engage was like Divios would ult somebody and bring them into like Nuwa clays and we just like double shred them with like Guan and Nuwa and like even Kepri shred and like we just do a lot of damage to a tank and kill them and like that was the strategy and we had like a lot of sustain or whatever and like it did it did really well in scrims and it got to the point where LG was banning it and Chonga. They were just banning
Really?
Guan Chonga every single game basically against us because DJ played a lot of Chonga too, and like that's what we were like known for like sustained comps. And we played Afro as like DJ never even practiced it. We played against Brazil to make um Dig or whatever they were called at the time to make them think that we play that as well, and they ended up banning it and it worked like that like strategy worked, but um yeah, the Guan was like just doing really well in scrims, and like the thing was is that I feel like DJ is playing a lot more aggressive in scrims because like as a Kepri you can't really like start stuff like you're more of like a you kind of watch the fight and like kind of help peel and like you send like your two and you ult. You're not really like an initiator. You're not like a playmaking god, right? So
Hmm.
the Guan has to be the one who's like horsing in and like going in with like the Keprialt and stuff and like the mid 3v3 and like we were just not we weren't proactive in like any play. Like kind of were just sitting there and like letting them take whatever they wanted to. So that's why it looked like really bad. And
I just remember him horsing out every team. Like the horse was never used aggressively for damage
yeah,
every single time. It was Guan horsing away.
exactly. And in scrims like we were Guan horsing in like fighting and being like super aggressive and like that's not like so like Trix is always like, yeah, you guys are always super stubborn about your picks, like saying like how good they were, and like to be fair, like he's 100% right. Like it was awful for sure. But like the thing is that like in scrims and like the success we saw with it was like good. Like in hindsight, if I look back at it, was that the best draft I ever came up with? Was that like the best strategy in the world? Probably not. But like when you're a team and everybody gets on board with something and it works in scrims and then you try to translate it into like the competitive part of the game as well, like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and it ended up not working there and it just became kind of like a joke or whatever. So but I do agree it was probably not the best thing ever, but it was not as bad as everybody makes it out to be, in my opinion, just because of how
Yeah,
it was
no
in
one
the
ever
experience.
sees what it is, you know. Like when you, if it works, it works, you know. And you did it for a reason. So even if it didn't work out on the day, you still you've seen it work, right? So you know it wasn't bad.
Exactly, and Netherlands was terrible. That was like the downfall of like Eager. That's when DJ was like, I don't know if I want to play anymore. And DJ was already like saying that after Worlds, like because he's in med school now, and like his plan was like after Smite, after he's played Smite for a little bit, he's gonna go do med school, and he can't do both because like med school is a pretty big commitment. You don't have a lot of
Mm.
time because you have to do so much studying and everything. So he's like, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna play, and then he ended up playing, and then like every other week he's like, I don't know if I'm gonna play next split, and then like after that, like the team kind of just blew up. Zap said he wanted to take a break, but then I convinced him to play again. And then I think he wanted to join another team even at that point, which is fine, which he probably shouldn't end up doing in hindsight because it was just like the whole environment. It was just bad. I feel like if we did stick it out though, we probably could have made it to Worlds with how like the NA teams were really, besides United, were not good in season 4 in my opinion. That's how I felt. I thought United was insane though. Like I thought they were really really good.
Mm.
But yeah, we'll talk about the finals basically. Like what was that like for you guys? Was that like the first LAN you guys have won in a while? Cuz have you won a LAN before that, Twig? Cuz you obviously won the
Yeah,
season 1 super regionals, right, Nate? So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I won the that was like after season 1 was like launched, there was like a kickoff LAN in America. You guys, there was a separate LAN like in America for I think, and like for EU there was like a kickoff LAN in Germany, Cologne, and like it was in the ESL studios, I remember. And like I think it was the top 4 teams, and we first rounded C9. That was like Suntouch and NQ who just like a couple months ago left our team like
Mm.
to join them, and that felt good, you know, to beat them, you know. And then I forget who we played against in the finals. I think it was Emilzy's team, whatever that was, Cringe Crew, whatever it was before Cringe Crew. And so we won that, and it was a pretty hype win at the time because it was just we won it. You know, there was no other team that was close, but we weren't even that good online, I think. And that's like we got the names Lanimals at the time, but it wasn't like that was the only land we won. So
That's how it is though, I feel like.
like and that was the only other land I won apart from the one with Obey. But the one with Obey felt like way better, especially like beating Energy was such a huge like
We had a
painful
very
win.
tough bracket, right?
And
Like
beating
our run
Variety
through it
too
wasn't
after
easy.
leaving, right? Must have
Yeah.
felt
Yeah,
really good.
exactly. That was awesome. Like that like it was such a close set against Dig, and we really did respect them. We scrimmed them a lot since we were on the opposite side of the bracket. And I remember it was yet another it was just like before season 3 Worlds against Energy, where we scrimmed them so much, you know, and we respected them so much, and we knew that they were going to be such a hard opponent, but we could win, you know. We weren't just getting slaughtered. Like we knew we could win. We knew we had what it took, and we also respected them a lot. And that it was the same thing as Energy. And we did beat them in game 5, thanks to I think Nate playing really great, and same with Prime. And like that was definitely the most like the best LAN win I've had, even though it's not like a big LAN, it's just Masters, whatever. But like it felt great to me.
The one
I
thing
had the oh, go on.
the one thing that I want to bring up that I think is really important, that why EU I guess was considered maybe better than us, and it had like a deeper pool of teams than NA as well, like that were good. I feel like is that because like the top teams like had a lot of respect for like the other teams. I feel like in NA like there wasn't. I feel like it is more so now in NA for sure, and like that's something that I try to tell my team, like having respect for your opponents and like being able to scrim and like learn from them and not thinking they're like the worst team ever, and like just like completely be like you can like trash talk for sure and like be like me whatever, but like there's like a respect that I always felt that all the EU teams had with each other, that like the NA teams that were on top didn't really have that like respect, you know what I mean, like for like the other teams, like because talking to you Twig, you're always like, yeah, like even like the lower teams, you're always like, this player is really good at doing this, and I like learned from him, and this like you can take things from teams that are not even the best players and like learn things, and like I think that's really impressive and like awesome for like having that like as like a higher, and that's why you guys are so good, or that's why you're so good like in particular, and that's why I feel like all the EU teams are so good, just because you guys all have that respect for each other that NA I feel like is starting to get more of now, but like didn't have it as much in the past, and I feel like that's why there was always like a deeper pool of like EU talent, in my opinion. I don't know if you guys could agree with that, but
Yeah, I
obviously, yeah,
That sounds
completely
right.
agree. I
I
mean,
always
I've
thought it
always yeah.
was the buying into. Everyone was saying that NA sucks, you know, because the Worlds had gone to EU and all that stuff, you know, EU finals, and then that LAN happened and no one did well there either. And I think from that point on, to me on the outside, and I think it lines up with what it said, I just thought that everyone had bought into the EU sucks thing, but the NA sucks thing rather, and there wasn't very. It was like people didn't think there was any talent within NA, and they had to learn from EU rather, you know.
yeah,
I don't
for
know if that
sure.
syncs up or not, but it was almost like you were defeating yourselves before anything happened, because you don't go from having two best of five sets in the semis, which could have gone either way. Our set could have gone either way, and Energy versus well, they LG at the time could have gone either way. You know, they were very close sets
Hmm.
to NA is a bad region. You know, you don't just switch like that. The players don't go bad, teams don't go bad like that.
Yeah,
And I
that
think the respect thing really chimes in on that.
that land like that's a cool land to win for you guys too, because if you think about it, EU is so dominant compared to the rest of all the teams in every other region, including NA. Like EU was so much more dominant in that split or and LAN. Like,
Mm.
and you guys were the best team during that dominance. So that's pretty cool if you actually think about it, because like none of the NA teams even stood up to like even like rival like like slammed LG, and like like Dig destroyed us, but then you guys beat like all of like the teams basically, and you guys said you came in first, right? That split, so you guys were doing really well like the entire split as well. So like it's just insane to think about how good you guys actually were that split. Thinking back
Was
to
it
it.
us or was it Dig that was first? Dig came first in one of the splits, right? Was it the second one? And we were first in the first one.
I
I
think
can't.
it was the second one. I don't really remember, to be honest, since I never really remember like online seedings as well. Since I feel like most people just don't even think that matters as much as being the
Yeah.
first at
Mike
LAN.
said Dig was first in summer 100%. So then you guys must
Okay,
have
Okay.
then
been
we must have been
first
first.
in spring. All
Yeah.
right. Do you guys have any closing thoughts? Anything that you guys want to say, or anything else? Like I've
Well,
really
actually,
enjoyed this.
I got a chip in my shoulder with this. Everyone calls me passive, right? And not in the soloing business. If you go back and watch that Dig set, I don't know why. I only remember the first one, but watch how many times Arkle and I solo each other in a 5 game set. It's not even fun. Like you'd think it was some bad scrims or something. We died like 3, 4, 5 times to each other each, like across the games. It was so bizarre. And the first one was probably the worst death I've had in Smite. I just want to get this out there because it was so bad. I need to tell someone so if anyone remembers it. But it was the first game of the set, and I always get super nervous for the first game of any LAN, and you know you kind of lock up and you play super safe. But there was something happen, nothing was happening, and then something was happening on the other side of the map, and I was playing Kernanos, Alka was playing Ulla, and I remember I was staring at my minimap. I don't even know what I was doing in lane, but I was watching the team fight on my minimap so intensely. Arkle had managed to walk up to me, like pretty much melee range, and full combo me. And I looked back at my screen, I was like, "Oh no, what have I done?" And I just got completely destroyed. I didn't do anything, and it was so. That was the worst I ever had because I just completely switched off and I was so focused on how well they were doing on the side of the map. I was just staring at that mini map that you walked up and killed me.
Oh man.
But yeah, there were a lot of solo kills. I've never had that many. I don't think there's ever been a set with that many solo kills between ADCs.
Yeah, that
It was
lane's really quiet usually, I feel like.
Hmm. I don't know what caused that really. There's a lot.
Well, I guess I'd say my closing statement as a huge retweet on what you said, Aror, about like I feel like that the best thing you can do as a player is respect other teams and not be too arrogant. I had a huge disagreement with adapting. I remember it was in season 4, like a really big one, like where like I think it like ruined a scrim session almost, or like I blocked him or something. But like, and then it's all resolved now and it's all fine. But like, it was all resolved after like a day, I think. But like, it was like about arrogance and like not respecting other teams and other players, and it was like I feel like that was a big wake up call for me that like why would I sit there and just like think everyone else is worse than me and just think I'm the best when I feel like I can just learn something from everyone. Like if I just learn something from every team and every player like that I can learn from, it would be make me the best like at them all, you know, and I just feel like that's such a huge point to like take home almost as a player is that the best thing you can do is respect and look for anything that anyone does better than you and like apply it to yourself.
Like yeah, even the lower teams, you could definitely like learn things just from watching those games and just like seeing how they do things. Like for sure, maybe they don't know how to
Yeah.
close the game out. Maybe they don't know how to do this, but maybe they know how to do this way better than everybody else, and maybe that's why they're in the league. So like, it's definitely. And that's what the thing. That's what I felt like just always looking at the EU teams like over the course of being like as just like a spectator. Like that's how I've always felt. Like NA like has always haven't had the same level of respect that the other like as the EU region has, and like that's what makes you guys like such a deep like that's what made it like such a deep talent pool basically. And I feel like now NA is getting more deeper like in talent as well, just because people are starting to give that respect more, and like more players are starting to pop up and stuff like that. So yeah, thanks for coming on, guys. I really, really appreciate it. Thanks for taking like 3 hours too. This was fun. It was a lot of fun
Yes.
learning about a bunch of different things. Like all the season 1 stuff. Like I literally knew nothing like about any like I said. I knew your roster, like the Agilitas roster going into the super regionals, but I had no idea like how it all started basically, and like that there was like a bunch of different players that got into it, and then like just like hearing about how you got into the scene too is really interesting to me. Appreciate both you guys coming on.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you so
Cheers.
much, man. This
It was
was
fun.
it's really good to look back and everything and realize that I've just been smiling the entire way through. You know, it's been really awesome.
And
So thank you for helping us relive this.
like the thing too that Mike said is like these are like the talks that he said last week, which I really liked. What he said was that it's kind of like the talks you have at like a LAN where like people don't really get to see it on the outside. Like the players have like some of these kind of, maybe not this long. Like me and Swick had a pretty long conversation at the last Invitational, the All-Star event. We talked for like an hour and a half, and Twig's like, man, I gotta go to bed because I'll just keep talking for like hours on end. And like Mike's like that too. Like we were talking about it last week. Me and Mike talked for like 4.5 hours one night. Just like and both of us were like, oh shoot, it's like 3:30. We have to get up at like 8. But yeah, it's just funny. So again, I appreciate it. Check out their Twitters or streams. Obviously, everything. If you guys want to plug any of your social media stuff, go ahead too.
I'm all good.
All right,
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah,
Sweet.
thank you. Thanks for the chat.
Thanks. All right, guys. I'll catch you later. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.
All right,
Cool.
peace.